How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Aristotle.
Benorian.
And Volacel, and we're here again this week, except now at full strength, to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, or we would if anybody in the video games industry had done anything interesting.
Everyone's been
Yeah, it
playing
seems
Lost
like-
Ark.
It
Yeah,
seems like
pretty much.
everybody's playing Lost Ark while they wait on Elden Ring.
Yeah, that seems to be the thing.
Being digested by the Korean MMO Hell Engine.
Yeah, so we played it as a kind of a 0.5 last week, and
After the train wreck that was the end of the show
Yeah,
that
so-
me and Vol did.
Instead of getting one passable show, you got two sub-mediocre shows. So
Yes.
hopefully that adds up.
so I'll be playing a bit of Lost Ark on the stream, playing a different class than I did last time. I played the Gunlancer last time because Gunlance. And yes, they did straight up steal it from Monster Hunter. But
But if you'd like to get involved with the show, before I forget to do the shtick, you
Yes.
can do so by sending us an email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server and chat with the show hosts and other listeners to the show, and you can get there by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath the archive on YouTube.
shtick done.
Yeah. Yes, indeedy.
So,
So,
Lost Ark. Let us dive straight into the rather sticky and poorly dressed elephant in the room.
I mean,
Did it have to be sticky? Why would you do that?
It's a Korean MMO. Yes, it's sticky.
no.
I need an adult
Oh, that's okay. They don't
Crazy.
even have the lolly race in there yet.
yet.
Yeah,
Yes.
But artist is definitely a lolly race. Or at least an individual who is clearly designed to look like one. Which is a shame because that class looks unspeakably gorgeous.
Yeah,
yeah.
but we need to sell swimsuits.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to make sure that the game can keep operating. And
So,
if Terra has taught us anything, there is one thing which will infallibly save an MMO in the cosmetics market.
That is Ellen swimsuits.
Ellen swimsuits.
El-
So, I came into this game expecting to absolutely despise it.
I was a little bit surprised, actually, how vicious you were without having even tried it.
Yeah, because when you look at a Korean MMO, you can expect certain things, and I've already popped the Clash Shop up to prove this point again. So you've got the extremely egregious and really tacky cosmetics. I mean, you can ride around on a pinata for crying out loud. You've got ridiculously overblown systems that are pay to win, which is the kind of end-game item enhancement. And that's in here as well.
That's in, like, every Korean MMO uses the exact same system.
And it always sucks.
The exception being that at least this one has a pity system.
It does, thankfully.
But
Yeah.
it's roughly as generous as the pity system in your typical gacha.
Yeah, I'm used to the one in Black Desert Online where it's like, oh, you have a 90% chance? That's the same as 9%, isn't it? So yeah, also things like gender-locked races and really, really tacky chainmail bikini costumes. I know they look gorgeous, but they're still tacky.
Well, I mean, it's a Korean game, so the art is going to be gorgeous, but it's also going to look identical to every other Korean game, both in degree of tackiness and in sort of general aesthetic.
Yes.
Yeah, as in all the female characters got booties that just don't quit.
Yep.
And
they're
you can tell anytime they walk away from you because they
are proud of them.
animated to accentuate that as much as humanly possible.
all
Gotcha.
the male characters are beefcakes that would make any heterosexual lady want to husband that right away.
Well, you get two types of guys in Korean MMO, and only two, and that is Brick Shithouse or Bishonen.
Yeah.
And there's
So-
no in between.
So they know what they're appealing to, and they're quite proud of it.
Yes, they're going after thirsty fiends.
And,
But,
you know, I actually like that Korean MMOs are upfront about it. Like this is
At least
character
they're
design we
honest.
like.
Well, it's better than everybody looking like new Aloy.
That's
Or
the
or
that's
the
the
lead from
alternative.
Last of Us.
She
Last
looks
of
like
Us 2.
the potato she stole her personality from. It's fine.
Yeah, the alternative is a man with a butter face.
Yeah, that's the Last of Us for treatment.
which is
Yeah.
stunning and brave. Just FYI.
Even the target demographic hates that game. In that circuit,
I still
it's
see
act-
defenders.
You're not many in the circle of the target demographic. It's reached ungame status.
Well, of the fans anyway. And the
Yeah.
target demo is you got your people that don't actually care about video games that are going to be playing.
Oh yeah, the actual target demographic who the writing is aimed up don't spend money on video games anyway, so who cares? But yeah, I came into The Lost Ark fully expecting to hate it, not just because of the Korean MMO taint, but also because of the taint of Amazon games. Lest we forget.
Given
I
what
don't
we
know
were
if,
talking
don't know
about,
if you want to use taint given context and.
No, taint is right.
no, we need to explain to Fern what that word means.
Taint can mean a lot of things.
We'll tell you during the break.
Oh dear. So yeah, I fully expect to hate it. I was pleasantly surprised. It's not terrible. Don't get me wrong, it is still predatory and bad, but it is not the worst thing you can play.
I mean, it's another audiobook game, but we have our collection of those right now, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
You take your pick, whichever style you want to play. I guess if you want a Diablo style one, there are plenty of those. I mean, but this one's another one you can throw on the list if you want your ladies' booties to pop, which
Yeah.
I'm a fan of. We can have popping booties.
Until you get to the late game where it starts preying on your wallet.
Oh, you just don't. At that point, you just move on to the next one.
Yes,
Well, I
move
mean, like most of these types of games, it's full of people who swear up and down that they never spent any money on them, or more commonly, that they never had to spend any money on it.
Yeah, also known as liars.
Yes, those are liars. Sooner or later, the way these games are designed from the ground up, that sooner or later you need to spend money on them. Like, for example, again, bringing up Black Desert again, that game becomes impossible to play after about level 20 or 30, unless you have a pet. Because otherwise you're just going to spend all your time looting. And
Well, technically, you could loot it yourself.
No, you can't actually, because it's so much fine granular drops that by the time you stop to loot
Titan
everything,
Quest with all the filters turned off.
well, by the time it all stops, you start picking it all up, it's starting to despawn. And that's money, that's trash loot, that's actually valuable stuff as well. So, yeah. Later on in the game, you need more than one pet because you're going to be killing things that quickly.
Well, the problem with that is that the end game of that game is nothing but farming.
Oh, it is completely grind. That's the entire point of it.
It's not even just grind. It's like you've got to find a place with lucrative drops where you aren't going to get instantly killed by somebody, and then just pull the pack and murder them all, and pull the next pack and murder them all, and go back to the first pack, pull them all and murder them all, and do this for like literally hours on end without a break.
Yep. And the thing is there's items that everyone needs to go out of their way to farm at some point or another. Which means those items only spawn in or drop in certain areas, which means those places are farmed to hell and back. Have fun.
This red mage spent a lot of gil to make her bikini very shiny.
I see.
Well, that's what Gil's for, really.
Incidentally, this game also uses the pet loot system, but thankfully you only need one pet and it just gives you one.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I think that people are wise to the pet thing at this point. It would have been too much of a sort of like red flag.
Yeah.
I think we're likely to see going forward that strategy will be abandoned because it has become a red flag.
Yeah, people are knowing to look out for that one. So, yeah.
Like, a lot of these tactics, that they only get used once. There are only a few exceptions, like the chance-based weapon gear enhancement stuff. Like that gets used over and over again because there are a few permutations that you can use of that particular formula. And in addition, the pity means that you don't actually need to spend money for it to be functional. But the most of the other things like pets and that, they've got a limited shelf life because eventually they become notorious.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's only so many things to do. Thankfully, Lost Ark, unlike a lot of Korean MMOs, doesn't bludgeon you over the head with the cash shop. Like, so many of these types of games, you log in and it's immediate, like here's 3 or 4 pages of just crap that is thrown into your face saying, here, buy this crap. So, thankfully, I've not seen one pop-up for the cash shop itself. Cash shop is actually just kind of tucked away out of the way. They don't even try and sell you on the subscription service that they've got.
I
Nice.
would not have known there was one if you hadn't mentioned it.
Yeah. It's basically an account upgrade for a subscription to give you a few boosts. That said,
I mean, the one thing that they do is that they put it directly in front of you without any explanation for what that button refers to. So, I mean, you would find out if you clicked on it, but I'm not the sort of person who clicks suspicious buttons on the internet, so...
Yeah, don't click on suspicious buttons. But yeah, as far as just brain-dead games, if you want to sit down, just grind and do something like that, you can do a lot worse, honestly. It's not creepy yet, because again, no lolly class. But that's only a matter of time. But I think it kind of falls into the same category as Terror does. Like, you play it for the spectacle.
Well, the combat feel is just generally better than equivalent games in the West. Like, it's a matter of taste, obviously, but I found that it was more enjoyable for me to play than Diablo 3. Like,
Yeah.
it was just straight up, it was. And they are, no matter how much people like to defend Lost Ark as being a separate genre, it's not.
It's not.
In any meaningful way. There's just more people around, that's all. But the actual game feel of carrying out the process of combat is better. There's no two ways about it. That's just, it is. It feels better to play.
I think that's the big thing that stops people in the West from really just completely writing off Korean MMOs, is because they always have really good combat. They've kind of hit this formula where they realize that if they sink all of their development time into combat, then the rest of the game will largely take care of itself.
Yeah, the other stuff will follow. But I mean, that's not alien logic. It's basically, oh well, if people like this, then they'll spend money on it, and it's sort of hard to fault that. The problem is the sort of psychological tricks that get used to widen that open orifice.
You were struggling to find a better word there, weren't you?
I was like, this word is begging me to use it, so I'm going to use it.
So yeah, I love that approach. It's like, take care of the core gameplay loop first before you do anything else, and then the rest of the game can follow on from there, and that works.
Creating a cult of addicts to finance your project is perhaps ethically dubious.
Well, yes.
Yeah,
but you certainly don't play this game for the plot. I don't know what the plot is. It's like,
except when plot is used as a euphemism.
Well, yes.
About to say, plot is front and center on my screen all the time.
Is it jiggling?
Well, no, it's sashaying.
There you go.
Than jiggling.
So yeah, there is, for people who really want it, there is plenty of that kind of plot.
Poppin' might be a more modern and good word for it.
It is dummy thick. And I have to saying that.
I really detest that, and you just made me feel dirty saying it.
I know, right?
I don't know. Something about that particular phrasing, and the fact that it most often seems to be applied to people who are actually obese, sort of makes it nauseating.
Yeah, and the fine line that people use to define it between, like, has a big booty and is overweight is never clear.
You know, I associate it, thanks to one Steven Crowder, I more or less associate that with Lizzo.
But yeah, it's one of those phrases that just never sounds good, ever.
No, it's awful. It's categorically bad, and it marks you out as either a bad person or a stupid one or both.
Or a meme lord, I suppose.
See above.
See above. So yeah, like, okay, so Lost Ark, not a bad game. But be very, very aware of what you're getting yourself into. I don't think Easy Anti-Cheat's the worst thing that they can install on your system. Not like Zinco.
The thing that gets me about even thinking about booting up the game, though, is just how long it takes to open up.
It does. It tastes... Well, I actually did a little experiment, actually, before the show. I started both Final Fantasy and Lost Ark at the same time. By the time Lost Ark was open, I was able to log into Final Fantasy fully, travel to the Golden Saucer, and purchase 2 of the Cacpot tickets. And then it opened. Actually, no, that's not quite true. In the background, it started screaming at me with seagulls.
Well, yes, that's the traditional greeting in that
Yes.
part of the world.
Mine.
Mine, mine.
As the great one, that one. Incidentally, the voice of the guy who did that, Rove McManus, who used to be very big on the nighttime TV circuit, he's just kind of vanished.
Yeah, he used to be on telly here as well.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because nobody actually watches TV anymore. Didn't mind his show, actually.
I mean, there are worse nighttime hosts, but that's largely because so many of them are so deeply awful.
Oh, most of them are just absolutely appalling. Rove was one of the good ones, even though he was the first person to christen the new the Claw ride at Dreamworld, the one of the big theme parks here. He just filled it full of naked people. So I assume they had to take all the chairs off and burn them afterwards. That was televised uncensored, by the way. Well, actually, no, that's not quite true. They tried to censor things.
So apparently he started a new show in 2019, and it got axed because it fell below the necessary ratings to continue running after 2 episodes. So I guess he's in the dog box.
I guess. Yeah, like he hasn't... I don't think he's actually one of these ones who's kind of suckled at the teat of whatever big fad is going on at the moment, so he's always just kind of done his own thing. But that ain't good for ratings, apparently. Anywho, so yeah, that's Lost Ark. I'm just going to poke away at it during the show because it's something you can do without thinking of it. That said, I have tried a bunch of the classes. I really do like the Gun Lancer. It just feels so very heavy and very satisfying.
And very like Monster Hunter.
very much like Monster Hunter. Artillerist is the same. Again, very heavy and satisfying.
Just like in Monster Hunter. Because it's basically the heavy bow gunner.
It's basically the heavy bow gun. Then I've also played... can't even remember what it's actually called. I'm just going to call it the Demon Hunter. Because it's a Demon Hunter from Warcraft. It's got eye lasers. It's got metamorph. It's got the same weapons.
Your derivative doesn't really quite cover it, to be honest.
Yeah. That class is fun, but it feels a bit jank, largely because the attacks never seem to go quite as far as you'd expect them to.
Well, I found that when I was playing Demon Hunter as well, to be honest.
Yeah, that's also true. And I also played, again, forget what the class is actually named, the Super Saiyan. Sacred Soul or something like that. One of the pugilist classes.
I just think of it as Buddha Palm.
It is the Buddha Palm. You get the Buddha Palm, you don't press any other button, just Buddha Palm. So that class is a lot of fun.
What movie was that even from? I don't even remember anymore.
That was from either Kung Fu Hustle, I believe. Or was it... Hang on. I'm going to have to look it up. I think it was Kung Fu Hustle. I will ask ye old internet. Yeah, like, there's a lot of really good, fun martial arts movies out there. I need to really watch more of them. Just the really silly ones. Instantly, if you haven't watched it already, Shaolin Soccer is great. It is the most absolutely ridiculous thing going. Oh, it's made by the same people, actually. As Kung Fu Hustle.
I see.
Let's see, here we go. Ashes the Afghan, Toadstyle. Yeah, this is it. So yeah, Buddha Palm's in Kung Fu Hustle. It's also the one with the absolutely monstrous landlady.
Oh yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Yeah. That landlady, yo. It doesn't matter how
There's a
powerful
scene-
the heroes get, she's still
There's
above them.
like a scene where she's just appears sitting in the back seat of a car. I've got that's my memory of her.
Yeah. I remember her just chasing the heroes down an alley at one point. So yeah. They're great, just dumb fun movies. I wonder if these guys have actually done anything else. Let's see. Let's see. Shaolin Soccer they also did. Doesn't say on here. Hang on, let's see. Stephen Shah Singh Chai. What's he been in? Shaolin Soccer, Kung Fu Hustle, and CJ7.
I don't know anything about that. Anyway,
Yeah,
back on topic.
it's a pun
Since we're
apparently.
miles away now.
Yeah, where are we? So, video games. I got to play a little bit of Final Fantasy over the last week. Unfortunately, a lot of my Final Fantasy time went into Lost Ark. Trying to wrap my head around this monster and seeing why people are trying to appreciate it so much. I've been running around in the past and trying to get to know this cute little bird girl who is inevitably going to meet a very terrible end. I just know she is.
Ari and I can't say anything.
Yeah, because that's deep into spoiler territory. Like, it's been nice. Like, I really do enjoy Emmett Selk as a character. Even before the Divide, he's still like he's nicer, but he's still.
I don't know if I
very
would quite go
abrasive.
that far. It's he's not nicer. He's less damaged.
Yes.
He hasn't been enduring thousands of years of shame and regret.
Yeah. He's still done with everybody's crap, though. Like, the very
But
first time he sees you, he just looks at you and just kind of just goes, "Not dealing with that," and tries to walk away.
But I mean, these individuals are immortal. So I mean, you know that the situation is just like he's always the most powerful individual in the room, and so he gets asked to do all the annoying crap no one else wants to do it, and he's too dutiful not to do it, but he hates it.
Yeah.
That's that sort of person.
But he does still get a bit of joy out of actually helping people, at least at this point.
Although he tries his best to hide it.
He tries not to. So, yeah, that's fun.
But I still think of it as the Bishonen game sequence because I play a female character, and so you're sort of like this diminutive, lost female character who's entering into this isekai world and are immediately sort of like apprehended and carried along by a series of tortured Bishonen characters who all have their own sort of like distinct character traits and look.
Yeah. Whereas for
And
me, it was...
they all sort of engage in like the Bishonen game equivalent of flirting with you as well.
Yeah.
They all fit traditional, like, archetypes, like the dark tortured one, the friendly nice one, the
Well,
Yuri
he's
bait.
sort of like the flighty one, which is sort of like secretly has sort of inadequacy issues or something. Like they don't feel like they're quite as powerful as their friends or as useful as their friends. And you know,
Yeah.
the guy who's standoffish and acts like he hates you being around, but for some reason he always ends up around you anyway. That sort of thing. Like it's all very very Bishonen tropey. And I viewed the entire thing through that lens. I don't know if that's because I watched a lot of those anime back when I was reviewing all of the anime
Yeah.
that came out each season. There
That
was
time
like
you went mad,
two-
you mean?
there were 2 or 3 of those shows every season.
Yeah.
So I saw an awful lot of that, and so I end up seeing that everywhere now.
The lines actually do change a little bit if you're a Barakat, because they mention how you've got the face of a beast, but the soul of this other guy.
Yeah.
So
it's
they
just like,
basically treat you like you're some sort of weird puppet thing.
well, that's true of everybody. Like what they say of you, if you're a Makotes, they just say ears and a tail. Huh? I guess your master has interesting tastes.
Yeah.
Familiars.
So in my case, instead of having the cute lost little girl thing they saw when they looked out, it's this burly cat wearing pajamas. So At that point, Emmett Selk's response of just, nope, was pretty justified. So, yeah. Like, these it's all set in the days, like, before the first time, or before the world split. I don't think that it actually states necessarily immediately, anyway, how long before that happened. I'm going to assume that this is like...
You're really too early in that plot line to make too many assumptions, because how everything will come to pass, while it's not going to happen in front of you, the route ahead will become clear over the course of your adventures there.
Yeah. Like, you can starting to see a few little bits and pieces here and there, like... mostly that's focusing on Hades at the moment, which is what you're there for in the first place. And not Hades, sorry. That's Emmett Selk. Hermes.
The other H Greek god.
The other H Greek god. Well,
Hephaestus
one of the other
is a Greek
H's.
god too.
As is Hera.
Now I'm trying to think if they're in the game anywhere.
Probably. Hephaestus would be. He'd be one of the other seats, no doubt.
They do have They mentioned at the live letter that they do have names and roles for all of the seats.
Yeah.
But whether or not they ever reveal them is a different question.
Yeah, like you've only really gotten Hades and Hermes so far, because they're the only ones whose roles really become relevant.
Right at the point you're at.
Right at the point I'm at. Well, and the end of Shadowbringers for Hades. Get a bit of that there too.
Oh, there's and if you look around, just in Elpis, you can see other ones.
Yeah.
That they don't fill the seats, but they still share Greek named origins.
Yeah.
Everything to do with the Asians has some Greek root. A couple Roman I noticed, but 99% are Greek.
Yeah, it's kind of an Olympian thing I think they're going for. So yeah, that's been nice. Although no one seems to comment on the fact that I just murder all their creations as I walk around, but anyway.
Oh, go fight the goats in the Fate when it pops.
I haven't found the goat Fate yet. What? Why?
That's mean. Because the goats, for some reason, are just overtuned.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's just a regular ass kill quest with level like 85 goats in Elpis. And
except
those goats,
they don't hit like level 85 goats. Nope.
No, they
it's
hit
one
like
of
a level
those
90.
ones.
Yeah, they hit like a level 90 elite mob.
Oh, those are some tough goats.
They don't have the health of one, but they got the punch like one.
The time to kill is perfectly normal, but you're not going to want to pull more than one at a time.
I should probably get them to chew on a horsebird instead then.
Your horsebird will die in like 2 hits.
That's long enough.
No, go fight some goats. Oh, and they're in such a way that they are almost impossible to pull alone.
Oh, joy.
They're all clustered together. And for some reason, anytime you interact with one of them, it seems to cause about 3 of them to stick to you and chase you around. I don't know why. It just is that way.
Right. So, that's something to look forward to then.
If you're not sure if you've got the goat fate yet, you haven't got the goat fate yet.
I haven't touched any fates in Elpis yet, so...
When it hits you for over 20% of your HP on an auto attack, that's when you found the goat fate.
Yeah. So, yeah. Getting back to the story then, it's really starting to slowly unravel things. I'm waiting for the big thing to drop at this point. But it seems like at this point anyway, Hermes' biggest crime is he actually cares.
Well, I think that they expand on this quite a bit in an oblique way in the producer's letter that just happened, like yesterday or whenever it was.
I haven't watched that yet, so yeah.
The grand crime of that progenitor race is not really... There's nothing but arrogance, really. And you can when you hear Yoshi P talk about how he views those characters, including everybody involved, even the ones who are very intimately involved with you, you can sort of see his point that all of them presume to take upon themselves the authority to judge mankind as a whole by their own lights.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of belies a very deep-seated arrogance that can only come from, living forever and being ridiculously powerful.
Yeah.
It's like it rings really good for me when they have that kind of flaw in a society right now, because it's like, what happens if you take humanity as it exists right now, where everybody assumes nothing bad could ever happen to them and they know best, and their system is perfect and gonna work like clockwork forever, and you crank that up to 11 and make everybody immortal,
Yeah, like
and just watch that spiral out of control and expand and get bigger.
Well, on that note, Yoshi P also mentioned that the design team views the third civilization depicted in Dead Ends as being the ancients, taken to their logical conclusion if there was no end times.
I see.
If they had not been the apocalypse, they would have been Warm
Warm
Glow out of
Glow.
existence.
Yeah.
yeah. It,
Fern doesn't know what we're talking about, but he'll understand when he finally gets there. However many months he finally takes.
one of
He
these
will get to
days, I just need to
experience-
find a day I've got nothing else to do and just blitz through it.
Yeah, you need to experience Warm Glow in a party of people that doesn't have damage reduction.
Oh, this sounds like pain.
Yes. If group-wide Super Belide that isn't quite Super Belide but might as well be.
Is it just damage? It's not like percentage based or something, is it?
I swear it's percentage based
'Cause
almost.
it doesn't seem to matter how hard I try and help you with your mitigation. The health still evaporates like I didn't do anything.
Yeah, the only thing I can do to stop Warm Glow from getting totally out of control is to properly time my preemptive Helios, or to rewind time, or just mash the Helios button. It's the only way I can mitigate it. I mean, it's not particularly dangerous if your healer knows it's coming, because boss sits there after it does it and doesn't do anything else for a little bit. But it's just seeing those numbers is ridiculous.
And the whole point of it sounds like is there just to make healers panic.
Yeah, it's just to make your healers poop the pants.
Yeah.
Well, you get plenty of warning,
Yeah,
and most of the time he doesn't do it back to back.
You say most of the time.
Yes,
he
because
has
there is at least one time per fight where he will do it, and then he'll just immediately do it again.
usually between about 35 and 15%. He gets to do his back-to-back one.
So you need to be able to dump about 80% of the party's health and healing in order to prevent a TPK.
Eesh.
Or at least get you in the tank alive.
Yeah, like it's very my finger hovers over the home gang button. I must admit that I often have thoughts like that when my health goes down like that.
What happens if you super belide while you're super belided?
I don't
Well-
because I've got confidence that I can recover my health because warriors are healing monsters now.
Yeah,
but,
healers, warriors just don't die.
except when they
They
do.
Except when
They
do.
try to. This one tries to on the trash. He doesn't on the bosses, but he tries to on the trash.
I very rarely notice my health go below 100% on bosses.
Yeah, my
But
hots keep you stabilized just fine on bosses. I barely have to pay attention to you.
I don't know what it is I'm doing wrong on trash. Like I can think of sequences that I could use that would mean that I don't need to be healed, but it would require me to have a lot more faith in my DPS than I do.
Yeah.
Like I just you need to be able if you're going to do like edgy hardcore warrior pulling, then you need to know that your DPS and healer are going to be DPSing their socks off like clockwork every time, so that you've got the time to get through a pack before your health runs out.
And it's more fun to see your health take a spike from the cactuars or the dragon things, and then have everybody start panicking.
Joy. It sounds like I've got one doozy of a dungeon to look forward to.
Oh yeah, it's a ride, especially with real people when the AI can't guide you through the AOE's.
Yeah, I think that Dead Ends is easily the hardest of the dungeons currently in game. Like
Wow.
the other two max level dungeons are very clockwork. Once you know them, you can just so I'll go here and I'll stand here and I'll do this and I'll do that and everything will work out nicely. But seems to be a lot that can go wrong in Dead Ends.
The second boss, I misread the pattern on his AOE thing at least once a fight.
Like I enjoy Smarlton's environment the most. and I like Sigmascape's music, but when it comes to like having to actually grit your teeth and pay attention to the mechanics, Dead Ends is definitely ahead of the others.
Yeah.
Smiles,
It's
Smiles
not
and
it's
Dungeon
not
sounds amusing.
yeah.
Well, it's a dungeon built by Loporits who weren't paying attention to what their machinery was doing.
The first boss has a move called Get Off My Lawn.
I want to play this already. That sounds great. And
Yeah,
I
it's
just
the-
like the Loporits. They're
Well,
so
you
bad.
need to get to the end of the story.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, we'll happily drag you through it, but you got to get there first.
Yeah. I need time. I need to not adult anymore.
No
Woot!
doubt feel.
Finally got my stupid anima weapon ready to upgrade to the next part. I got all the Umbrite.
Nice.
I haven't been working on it.
I thought you were past the Umbrite part.
I am, but I haven't done anything at the next step.
So yeah, I'm going to leave my week at that. I could probably talk a little bit about Pokemon Arceus, but because I think I'm nearing the end of my run with that. But
Like you're done with playing it, or you're just done with the end of the story?
done with the end of the story. I still haven't gone and finished the final boss because you do a rather tough trainer battle and then you fight Giratina after it, and I just haven't got the team to do that properly. But you can just spend so much time just wandering around and faffing about that you can just completely forget about what you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, by and large, everyone seems to be very happy with the game, even though it's not perfect. It's got some notable flaws to it, but
Well, it's not Sword and Shield.
it's not Sword and Shield, and that's, I think, the biggest advantage it's got going.
Yeah, it's people raving about a new Pikaman game after Sword and Shield is it's hard to take what people say seriously, especially if they're fans, because Sword and Shield was so bad.
Yeah, and
Anything is going to look like gold after Sword and Shield.
yeah, Sword and Shield was just awful. But for those who are competitive, they've also ditched the IV system, which is inherent values.
Yeah.
Well, that was bullcrap anyway.
It was bullcrap, and if you wanted to build a competitive team, it would involve getting a Ditto and doing unspeakable things to it until you had a perfect Ditto. Then you do more unspeakable things to it, which will get you 26 perfect Dittos, one for each nature. And then, only then, can you start breeding your actual team by doing unspeakable things to even more Dittos.
None of that sounds like actual fun.
It's
so
not, because a lot of
I
the
hope they
time
get something out of it.
it's put 2 Mons in the daycare, retrieve egg, and then spend 10 minutes riding back and forth on your bike. And that's how you breed. Repeats. So I'm glad that they've gotten rid of that system. Hopefully it stays gone. But yeah. So yeah. I don't think there's really anything more to say about it that hasn't already been said. It's a good starting point for something new, and let's just hope they learn the right lessons from it and not the wrong lessons.
I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah. After all, they did make Sword and Shield. And then they did Diamond and Pearl 2, and those games, the Diamond and Pearl remakes, just feel so flat. And they honestly actually feel incomplete too. I haven't delved too deep into it, but I have a sneaking suspicion that they're pushed out the door too early.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like once a franchise becomes a periodic franchise, getting the release schedule on track seems to take precedence over basically everything else.
Yeah. Quality, value for money, actual functioning. Yeah. Anywho, Vol, what have you been doing?
Not a lot. Life sucks. We had a client that had been dormant for a couple of years now suddenly reactivate and start pumping work our way. So I've been ridiculously overworked and done a huge amount of overtime to try and keep things working, which I have not appreciated at all, and I kind of wish it would just stop. Yeah, so that sucked. The thing that sucked even more is that the landlord has decided he's selling the house, so now I've got to get out. I've got like 2 weeks to find a place to live before I'm homeless,
Oh, that's rude.
and it's not going very well. Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise to us because we've been renewing the lease with them every year, but it is technically a fixed term, so they don't have to give us any notice if they're not going to renew it. So yeah, that's the issue there. So we ended up with like 3 weeks before the end of our lease, they decided, okay, so we're selling out this time, we're not renewing it. You're gonna have to get out. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
legal and it matches the contract, but it is still a dick move.
yeah, it's not great. But yeah, there's nothing for it except to find out what we can do. So one of my flatmates is looking for a flat for all of us to go to. I'm looking for a place of my own as a fallback. Honestly, I actually would rather go out on my own if I can find one for a reasonable price, but that doesn't seem very likely because the rental market is bonkers right now.
Isn't Auckland or Christchurch by extension like one of the most expensive cities in the world?
Auckland is.
Auckland's
tied with Los Angeles, I think.
Yeah, I think Sydney's number
For
3.
no reason. Christchurch is quite expensive though. It's one of the more expensive places in New Zealand, but by while that's true, of the averages, the hysteresis is quite high. So you can find really cheap places to live that are really terrible because housing in New Zealand is terrible generally.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also very expensive places. Like but the thing is, I don't understand who would rent a room for $1,000 a week.
The problem
Like,
is there's people who do, so the market
but
remains.
why? What do they? Why? What do you need that for? Like, if you've got that much money, just buy a house.
Yeah, if you're
It'll
spending
be
that
cheaper.
much on rent, buy a house.
Yeah, so I'm going to end up spending like a mortgage's worth of money on rent, but a mortgage's worth of money 4 years ago on rent. There'd be like maybe a fifth of what you would be paying on a mortgage at the way house prices have inflated now. So basically, I'm in panic stations. I don't know what to do. I know how to look for a house. I mean, it's not like I haven't done it before. But the problem is that I don't have the time because of what's happening at work. So yeah, wrestling with that right now, hoping I can find a solution before too long because.
You always just
One of those,
tell work to go hang and use up some of your leave time.
yeah, I'm going to talk to the lab manager about it on Tuesday because the reality is that if I become a homeless person, work won't be my priority anymore, and I won't care.
Yeah.
I won't care to come in because I have more important things to do. So yeah, that's going to end up being the way of it. So I'm just going to need to be able to drop out at the drop of a hat if I should get an opportunity to go to a viewing or something. I can't pass it up. I don't have that freedom because
You don't have the time.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's one of those problems that when you have it hanging over you, you can't properly think about other things.
Yes.
And I'm fairly sure that the quality of my work is just going to suffer as a result if I'm more worried than I would be otherwise because I don't have time to deal with the problem properly. So yeah, I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do. I mean, they've been forbidding me from taking leave for so long that if I just got fed up now, it shouldn't really surprise anybody. But yeah, they do have a new person starting soon in the beginning of March. So it's the circumstances will take a measurable improvement.
Provided they're not completely useless.
Well, they are one of our biggest competitors appears to be imploding at the management level, and they have a run on their staff, much like we did when we had a bad manager takeover ages ago, and we lost all our senior staff. They've had the same thing happen there, so all of those senior staff are sloshing about, and we've employed several of them already and are trying to round up more of them. The one which has basically become my assistant is incredibly good at her work.
Oh, good.
Like, she's not like thoroughly trained, and she doesn't have the breadth of knowledge I do or anything like that. But she's like the first assistant I have had since I started working who very proactively seeks out work to accomplish and learns how to do it,
Mm.
as opposed to standing lost looking for instructions.
That's probably the hardest thing to find is someone with work ethic. Like experience and knowledge, you can train. Work ethic, you can't.
Normally, I expect that anything that I put aside because I don't have time to do right now is going to get left to the end of the day, and my co-worker is going to scoot, leaving it all on the bench as soon as their work is done, because that's historically what has happened. But now I turn around and I find it's already been done, and then I get asked, "Is there anything else for me to do?" I'll go home if not,
Nice.
which is it's a very refreshing experience, to be quite honest.
Although now I
because
think I might
normally-
start to see her game now. Her attitude is get everything done and then we go home early.
Yeah, and that's how I used to work back when I used to work with the other KTP on Saturday before he left, and we used to go home early every day that we were working together, because us working on each other's work whenever we had a spare moment meant that there was less than two people's work between us if we were going full bore the entire time.
Mhm.
And so it basically meant that it was a 7-hour day. So maybe I'll be able to get back to that once she's got, the full suite of knowledge under her belt. But most likely what will happen is that they'll figure out that she's a good worker and they'll take her away. That's probably what will happen. Anyway,
Get out the
Things-
broadsword and fight tooth and nail for her.
things are looking up at present because of that, and because of the other skilled staff that are likely to come in. Still a lot can go wrong. Like if they decide that there's enough of them from the other laboratory that they're going to become their own little clique, then it's going to devolve the situation back into something even worse than it was. But hopefully that won't happen, because I don't think that they've got any particular loyalty to the previous place. So they resent their previous employment, from what I can tell. Anyway, so basically work sucks for me. My home life sucks for me because my home itself is going to depart soon. And generally speaking, I'm extremely tired all the time and have no time to play Final Fantasy. I spend a lot of time thinking about playing Final Fantasy and almost no time actually playing it. That's frustrating, but you can't have everything. I'm constantly enduring by way of the blind and irrational hope that eventually things will stop. Like, it will stop pouring, because, when it rains, it pours, but I haven't seen anything but pouring for the last several months.
Yeah.
Which has had really vicious effects on the amount of time I can spend playing video, that's for sure. Anyway, so along with Fern, as anybody who looked at the 0.5 episode we did has seen, I did try out Lost Ark. I have only tried it out on one character class because that's the only one I've had time for. And honestly, I'm not much of a spam tons of character classes at the launch of an MMO person. I tend to sort of fixate on one and at least break it in before switching to another one, so that I feel like, I've got a good sense of how this operates and how it's likely to operate going forward. Although they say that that's really not true of Lost Ark character classes, because they are intentionally designed with a very short leveling curve, and most of the functionality opens up at max level with their engraving system.
Mm-hmm. I
Not
get that
I know
impression as
anything
well.
about that.
Like, that's a whole really complicated mechanic that I haven't even touched yet. I'm
Yeah,
not
from
even
what
at
I
max
can
level.
tell, it's very much like you get your talent trees at 50 sort of thing.
Yeah.
So all of your abilities suddenly become modified once you hit max level, or you gain the ability to do so. But at any rate, so I played the Scrapper class, which used to be called Infighter for whatever reason, apparently, and has been changed to Scrapper. At any rate, it's sort of a back and forth style where you have two classes of abilities and two types of resource, and each type of ability will consume one and charge the other. So the idea is to keep the two sort of roughly in balance. Although there are different ways to play the class, and I've heard that one of them basically ignores one class altogether and builds another type of DPS class based on buffs and debuffs from one particular type, and then manages the rate at which they use the resource, and
Okay.
basically only uses the other one occasionally for a boost of recharge. And the other method is to maximize the amount of oomph you get out of your green abilities while relegating the yellow abilities to basically charging up your green abilities, and basically operates on a sequence of a burst window and a recharge phase, which is the one that most people end up favoring, because the other method, while it works serviceably well, just as well, and is very stable, it's also apparently not that interesting to play. But yeah, so it's a the feel of it is good. It feels way more pressing buttons just feels sort of like weightier and more meaningful in Lost Ark than it does in most ARPGs, or the isometric view ones. You press a button, you feel like you get some impact out of it. But I can't really bring myself to take the game seriously because leaving aside the Korean grinder aspect where they're just trying to bleed you for your dosh. Like, I know what it's like to play a game that bleeds me for my dosh. I've played so many gacha games. But the reason I can't really take it seriously is because it is a game that is designed to be like a completionist's fever dream.
There is so much stuff.
Everything is about filling out lists and checking boxes. There are so many different pages worth of boxes to check and menus to fill in, and like cards to acquire and seeds to poke and ingredients to collect and all kinds of crap.
Yeah, we only just scratched the surface of that in the 0.5 episode. As I've been able to poke around a bit more, every half hour or so, it seems like I found a new system which has a new set of collectibles.
And what's more is that this isn't just completionism stuff. This is like Datacrons. So
Yes.
everything that you do is going to weight your abilities one way or another. Like all of this collecting stuff, it pays off gameplay-wise.
Yeah.
So if you were to take the game seriously, it would mean you would have to autistically chase down every particle of this stuff sooner or later.
Aside from any other effects a lot of this stuff has, a lot of it will give you roster experience, which is basically just account level, and which gives you bonuses to all the characters on your account. And
so this feeds into another thing that that is a reason why I can't take it seriously. And like primarily the reason I can't take it seriously because with all the collectibles is because it screams casuals need not apply, and I don't have time to monomaniacally monogame on Lost Ark. I'm just never going to have that sort of time in my life ever again unless I become unemployed. So the other thing is that the roster system feeds into alts, and alts are basically the solution to the major problem of resource shortages that apparently becomes endemic when you hit max level and are trying to build up your characters. Eventually, apparently, you get to this point where basically you want to have a mountain of alts like you did in World of Warcraft, because you need to be able to farm once a days for resources to funnel to your main.
Yeah.
On as many characters as possible, and the entire gameplay loop becomes about doing this chore, playing each of your alts every day to get material that you can only get once a day and funnel it to the main that you want to build up. And that's just the way you build up a character. Like, you can make the argument, oh, you only do it once a day on one character, and eventually you'll get there. Yes, but by the time you do, 2 patches will have gone by. So
it's going to take
and
you
you'll be
way
in the
too
midst
long.
of the catch-up mechanics. Yeah, so they are catch-up mechanics, and you don't need to stay at the bleeding edge of progression. Obviously, that's true. But you will be able to see at all times that, well, if you had just played alts, for every alt you do, you get 100% more of that material or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the game is built around this sort of parallel system of account XP and completionism. So everything about it is designed to suck you in and absorb every bit of your time. Now, to me, this is the polar opposite of Final Fantasy XIV, and the reason why I can keep playing Final Fantasy XIV is that there is zero punishment for being a lazy bastard, like me. They don't constantly weigh upon your mind to keep playing. It's like the opposite of World of Warcraft, where the World of Warcraft is entirely designed from, the psychological grounding up to try and get you to spend as much time in the game as possible. Whereas Final Fantasy XIV sort of nixed that idea.
Yeah, like 90% of our Final Fantasy time has been spent in the 5 or 6 hours before the show every weekend.
Yeah, that's basically it. We don't don't play during the week, or at least very little, because we just don't have the time. But that's not really, we don't feel any profound sense of loss because of it. Whereas Lost Ark is built around playing all the time and like single-mindedly farming power. That's just how the gameplay loop works, and that's not uncommon. That's not strange. Certainly not in an ARPG. But most ARPGs aren't also MMOs, so you are not competing with other people for a particular tier of power. Although, since most ARPGs have now introduced seasons, things have started to skew slightly in that direction.
It's the worst thing being added to them, I think.
Yeah, like even ones that I like that are more recent, like Grim Dawn and that, have gone down the season route in one way or another.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like that whole seasonal thing. But
Thankfully, Grim Dawn
it's
a very light touch.
Yeah, that doesn't really mean much to most people unless you're already committed to the idea of, you know, multiple playthroughs, optimizing your character, that type of thing. Like you sort of have to make that commitment ahead of time. But Lost Ark sort of baits you in by having a good feel of play in the moment, and then later on they're like, yes, but you need to now devote your life to this product.
Alternately, give us money.
Yeah. Well, it's not alternately though, because
Not
once
for
you are
everything,
that invested, in the product, giving them money doesn't seem like a big deal anymore.
Yeah.
Because your entire playtime of video games has become oriented around progressing a goal, and you're not doing anything else because it will obliterate any other hobbies you've got.
Which I think is
So
one of the sneaky things. Like, you've got other games where they'll just bludgeon you over the head with the cash shop straight away. And there's absolutely no incentive to buy anything. But by leaving it in the background and waiting until the player is invested and fully committed to the game, I think that's a lot sneakier.
Yes, so I feel like the game is very much an engine designed to take advantage of you. And so my feelings about this game are very, very similar to my feelings about Genshin Impact, minus the CCP part.
Yes.
Because the game has a lot to commend it. It feels really good and fun to play in a lot of ways. And I've heard that their dungeons and late game content and their boss fights and stuff and their raids are all really, really awesome and great fun to do. But you are engaging with the really toxic system in order to play it. And I don't have the spirit in me to hold that at bay. So it's not a serious proposition for me. I am not going to uninstall it because I feel like I could quite probably dip my toe in and punch a few things now and again, and I would be quite happy to like play with Fern or Ari and just sort of like meander our way through the story and meander our way through the content, completely disregarding everything that's taking place around us by playing within a little bubble, which is sort of basically the way we tackle Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
But but the thing is that the game militates against that, and if Ari were to engage with the game fully for even a short amount of time, I'm sure he would end up like spectacularly ahead of the other two of us because of the way he plays video games. Like if we all sort of meandered along and hit max level, and then Ari decided to go balls to the wall for a week, he would be so far ahead of us that it would be laughable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like the game is designed to capture you and then poison you to death and addict you to that poison so you can't leave, which is not really something I want. So outside of a very, very sort of light dabbling in the game at arm's length, I can't imagine actually playing it, which is sad because I enjoy the feel of the game. But the same was true of Genshin Impact. I really enjoyed Genshin Impact. I liked the world. I liked the exploration. I liked the characters. I liked how colourful it was. But ultimately, it's trying to engage you with a toxic system that is designed to exploit money out of you with an especially aggressive gacha and aggressive stamina limits, and also the CCP. So
Also the CCP.
That's basically the straw that broke the camel's back. I probably would have kept playing Genshin Impact if it weren't for the fact that I also didn't really want to engage with CCP products, which is what I think of MiHoYo's products as being ultimately. Which is, you know, it's sad. I don't really want to be a part of that. But also ultimately I quit that because it was a gacha and one can only handle so much gacha, especially a fully fleshed out game one like Genshin Impact will take all of the time away from other gachas and other games in general.
Genshin Impact, when going back to that monetization system, where waiting until the player is investment before you start beating them over the head with it, I think they went too far the other way. Like, as soon as you hit the point where they start introducing the cash shop and the benefits and all of that, you're hitting a wall, like a very, very solid wall.
Yeah, the fact that they attach power to dupes is the problem with that system. The biggest problem with that system, other than the stamina gauge, is that power is attached to dupes. So you need to engage with the gacha. You can't just, I'll use free units and it will be fine.
Nah, that'll only get you so far.
That works perfectly all right in FGO, and in fact there are lots of players that play exclusively that way. They won't use anything higher than 3 stars because they think the game is more interesting and challenging that way.
Yeah, fair enough.
But so, and that's doable, but you're designed to be very aggressively shackled in Genshin Impact. Like in FGO, which is considered to be an extraordinarily stingy and gacha-hungry gacha game by most people's standards, you can still, without spending money, you can use those 3-star, 2-star, 1-star units, you can build them up to level 100 monsters using Grails, and you can play an entirely different game built around their kits and their abilities. And, you know, huge game breakers like Arash and Spartacus and Leonidas and Georgios, they're all in the game at that low star level, and they are linchpins of like whale strategies as well as low level player strategies. So yeah, you can play that way. However, that's because you can hit the peak of power on those free units effortlessly. Like you are going to get your dupes through the friend gacha and through whatever free gacha pulls you do because they're 3 stars, and they'll shower you with those. The same does not happen in Genshin Impact. Dupes are much harder to get for a lot of units, and you need them in order to get power. But it's not just power either; it's utility. A lot of their kits don't work properly unless you have dupes. Everything about that game is designed to force you back into that gacha shop.
Yes.
That's what they're aiming for. That's the whole point.
And even if the gacha is especially nice to you, you're still restricted by the energy system.
I do think that it is a valid point of view that all gachas are attempting to do the same thing, so it's much of a muchness. That is valid, but I feel like Genshin Impact is especially aggressive at that when it comes to gachas, and Lost Ark is sort of its parallel in terms of Korean MMOs, I think, and that all of the systems are designed to sucker away your free time to such an incredible extent that you don't think about anything other than playing that game because there's so many widgets and systems and collectibles and lists to go down and boxes to check off and so on and so forth, and it doesn't feel like a theme park of options in the way FF14 does to me.
Yeah,
like there's just as many things you can do, if not more, in FF14, but you're not being pressured to do all of them at once.
Yeah.
Whereas it's very easy to slip into a mode of bring up the interactable map on your browser for Lost Ark and go down the list to get every seed in every area as you go into them, get every treasure chest, get every cooking ingredient, fight every field boss, do all of these things because you need to do the everything. You must do the everything. And it encourages you to do the everything by giving you rewards for doing the everything.
Yes.
I'm glad I'm not currently in a isometric game mood, and because I would, if I started playing that game, I would get too sucked into it.
It would eat you alive because it is designed to grab completionists by the nuts and not let go. Like that's how it's built, and it's honestly, it sort of weirdly scares me when I see all of those lists and all those things. It's like, I'm not going near this. This is a bit much. This is a bit too much. I'm quite happy pottering along at my own pace.
And you only saw the top layer.
Yeah, I don't want to go down below the top layer. Like you say, we scratched the surface. We did not scratch the surface. Our breaths fogged the surface very slightly.
We lightly buffed the surface.
You clean the back of the disc after it sat upside down for a while on your dresser.
But
yes.
It was I liked the way it felt to play, much like with Genshin Impact, but I don't like the implications of everything that lies deeper, much like Genshin Impact. So yeah, that's my view on Lost Ark, is that I liked it, but I don't want to like it anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think it's healthy to treat it as another Grim Dawn or Titan Quest we can play because we like to keep those on standby.
I think it's very important that it not move out of that category, because I think that it's sort of like drinking strong alcohol. Like the last thing that you want is to become an addict, because it will destroy your entire life, and it will happen faster than you realize.
And
Yeah.
we all remember what I was like in college.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the big thing, is this game is dangerous. Like, it looks like it's very easy to go down that rabbit hole, just to get invested and then suddenly have all your time just devoured by it.
Well, it's not just a rabbit hole in a field, it's a great sucking vortex that draws everything into it, and nothing can escape, even light.
Yeah,
So,
if you jump in there, you're going all the way to Wonderland.
Yeah. And that's going back to what I said before. It's that really satisfying core loop that does it.
yeah, don't want it. The fact that the gameplay works so well makes it very easy to slip that loop by you, because you're having fun playing the game. So decorating that game with a lot of other things is very easy to do without it being clear just how nefarious some of those decorations really are.
It's like,
And I mean, I'm sure it's easy to listen to all this and say, oh, so it's just like every other Korean MMO. But no, I didn't feel like this in Terra. Not even slightly. Not at all.
no,
It was not the same thing.
Terra,
Well, Terra had
Terra had it in the past, but they kind of ruined it.
Terra had another thing going for it, in that it had a very good and very novel combat system for the time that was a big draw that helped distract from any of its other Koreanness.
Yeah, I think the other...
Even that though, it was way less heavy-handed. It was way less heavy-handed with it. The shop was purely cosmetics as far as most people were concerned. I paid a subscription for it, and I didn't feel like I was getting gypped, and I wasn't getting very much out of it either. But it was they didn't noise at you all the time about all of the things you weren't doing.
Yeah. Also, especially as time went on, Terra developed some rather glaring immersion breaks. Like when you're running around a field and suddenly here's someone who's dressed up in an Attack on Titan costume. It really just throws you straight out of it. But yeah.
Crossovers are fairly standard.
Crossovers are fairly common, but
I don't think that that's the problem though. What I'm talking about here is I didn't feel like they were trying to trick me. I didn't feel like they were trying to capture me. I still felt like I had the option not to buy in. Whereas a lot of these more recent Korean MMOs, they try and make you feel like you have no choice. Like you would be missing out, you would be non-competitive, you would be hopelessly behind the curve if you don't, toss a few dollars their way. Because all they need to do is break the seal once, and that's all it takes for most people.
Yeah,
and then they become a spender.
That first dollar is always the hardest to get.
Yeah. Once you've got it, that's it. I mean, I spend money on FGO every GSSR. It's just I do it as a thing now, and presumably it's because I did it once, and the GSSR was a very effective tool, especially against someone like me who has no meaningful way of really supporting the franchise other than buying merch that will never make it to me intact because I live in the wrong country. But yeah, so at any rate, that's my opinion on that. We will get Serathus's opinion on it shortly. If we remember to read the email.
We'll remember. It's there.
But yeah, so that was that. FF I've played very little of, much to my deep regret. There's nothing I can do about that. Once more time opens up, if it ever does, then we will do something about that. So FGO, the Valentine's event, I'd forgotten why I hated Valentine's events, and the reason is that eventually you've got to claim all of those Valentine's chocolates, and then they fill up your mailbox, and then you've got to do something about those Valentine's Day chocolates.
They're still using the old system?
It's never changed. It's always been you get the chocolate, you see a scene from the character, they dump it in the mailbox, and then you move on to the next one. And, so for me, that's what, I don't know how big my roster is, like 100, 200 servants. I don't have to watch all the scenes. No, in fact, I skip most of them apart from the ones that I haven't seen before. But the reality is that they've never upgraded the craft essence system. I doubt that they ever will. All of those chocolates are Craft Essence EXP items that I'm now going to have to shovel from my mailbox into my my Craft Essence storage, which is already bloated because I haven't cleaned it out in ages, and then I have to use my unbelievably Byzantine system to incorporate all of that EXP into EXP bombs for powering up my CEs, which is a humongous amount of totally unfun busy work, and my
Have you
least favorite thing about FGO.
you play enough? Have you capped out your CE storage?
No, not at all. Because there's lots and lots of it now, and because I buy all of the CEs that come out for Mana Prisms, like I just blew another 5,000 this week for the new one, so I
Okay.
can't accumulate enough Mana Prisms to actually buy out all of the second archive storage. Plus, I don't do my dailies every day because I don't have time these days.
Yeah.
Especially when I've got story chapters still to do. But yeah, so but CE maintenance is my worst thing in FGO. I hate it so much. It's the same as cleaning out my inventory on Final Fantasy 14, even although it's worse. So yeah, I hate that, but now I've got this big job ahead of me that I need to do. So it's a lot of EXP. I just don't freaking care. The other thing they did is that for some reason they decided, I don't remember this happening in JP, but they ran Merry Christmas in the Underworld as a main interlude, which just sort of surprised me. I don't remember them doing that, but okay. So I blew through those fights again for the free Saint Quartz, and then I'll burn the new copy of Attila the Santa.
Oh,
Job
May.
job done, I guess.
best/worst servant.
Yeah. Well, she's quite powerful single target quick archer if that's what you want. But,
Yeah, but she's kind of a terrible person.
she's just a bit airheaded. That's all. But yeah, so
I mean, Gotcha's bad civilization.
Yes.
I burned through that again, and then that's that over. I don't know what's happening next week. I'm not sure I want to think about it. So it's I think we're in the President's Day campaign at the moment. That happened as well.
They're
I
just
don't know what
throwing
President's Day
some
is.
random old
so,
events at you by the sound of it.
Yeah. Anyway, I expect that the next chapter of the current Lost Belt is going to come out shortly, and I haven't finished the last one or even made much progress on it at all because I don't have much time. And it doesn't help that I'm sinking some time into another gacha, which is the Pinecone one, that I'm honestly still only vaguely sure what I'm supposed to be doing. And honestly, there seems to be too much going on to feasibly do.
Something,
right.
something waifus.
Because there's like a double drops thing was going this week past for main story quests, and there's also like an event with a bit of story to introduce a new character that's going, and that has its own stages and bosses to farm. And then there's the clan battle event, which is going on for a few days, I think. I'm not quite sure for how long. And that's going on, and that's hungry for time. I hope they don't overlap like this all the time, because this
No,
is exhausting.
there's about 5 days a month where there's all this overlap where you have the event going, and then you have the double drop campaign going, and then you have clan battle going. And once clan battle ends, the double drops will end. Right now, we're ending main normal quest double drops, and then it'll be 3 or 4 days of hard quest double drops. But the clan battle will still be active. And
Right.
the reason they do that is so you have you can dump your stamina and get some power in some dudes while the clan battle's going. Because
Right. The thing is that I also want to dump stamina and farming those tickets
Yeah.
for the boss fight, which I can't
Yeah.
do. I can't do both. I can only do one.
yeah, and you got double EXP to weigh on this this thing too, which is always fun.
So yeah, it's I working out what I'm supposed to be doing is very difficult. I can't really meaningfully participate in the clan battle. I occasionally will throw a bit of damage a boss's way, but eventually the boss will probably just want me and it won't matter.
Yeah.
So
As long as you do something, you will get credit, and your rewards are based on how well we do as a guild. So
yeah. But this is the one occasion a month that you can build up tokens from the clan battle, so you can't sort of not do it. But
yeah,
what I make it sound like it's very, very time consuming, but ultimately it doesn't really require that much time in total. I don't have the sort of wealth of skip tickets that RSDL does, and I probably won't for quite some time, not until I can access a lottery event that generates a large number of them while having a party strong enough to actually meaningfully participate in that. Because like the difference between being able to kill the normal boss, which I can womp easily, and the hard boss, which can womp me easily, is a factor of like 8.
Yeah, and
So
each
yeah,
difficulty like doubles in the amount of or more than doubles, I think, the amount of medals you get.
no, I told you it's 8. It's a factor of 8. If you factor in the additional
Oh
cost of
yeah,
tickets,
okay.
it's a factor of 5.
Yeah,
So
so
you literally per ticket generate 5 times more rewards for the hard boss than you do for the normal boss, which I think is a bit steep considering the massive gap in difficulty between them.
by the time the next event rolls around, you should be able to at least manual the hard boss, if not auto it with your roster. You have a good enough roster. You can probably auto it. You got a bad event for your first event because this boss is in particular very difficult relative to the other ones
Yeah,
that we've
like
gotten.
the normal one basically has no abilities to speak of, and so it's just a big HP pinata. And I don't even have to look at the screen on manual. Like it will just die. It will fall over even if I do nothing. I found out because I started the fight on manual, then I got distracted and did something else. And when I looked back at it, the boss was dead and all my characters had full health. That's how easy the normal version is. The hard one shuts down the union burst on your 2 front characters and completely mauls you every time it uses one of its own. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
I
not
had to
not
I had to
really
brute force it.
not really a smooth gradient in difficulty.
Yeah, I had to go with a magic team. I had to run no tank and have Yukari tank it, who's a support character, not a proper tank, though she is a beefy support unit. And had to get all of my characters that were in that fight up to max stars, so all 5 stars, and get as much of their unique equipment and unlevel cap it as high as I possibly could. So dump all my resources in that to be able to one-shot the very hard boss at max level. It is a brutal, very hard event boss for your first event if you get it. It is just mean. Because
The, while the event is just an act of cruelty as far as I can see, the actual presentation of the event story itself, because I actually have been through it, is very nice. They put it all together quite well. The characters are cute, except I hate the 1 star that's coming out. She's just annoying. But they've got a very lavish presentation as usual. Everything's fully voiced. They've got your animated sequence. They even have an insert song for the closing credits where Kasumi and Makoto sing the closing song. So it's very elaborate presentation compared to most gacha games. But yeah, so it's a fun event. I just wish that I didn't feel so helpless. And I also don't really like the farming rate for tickets either, because you get quite a reasonable dose for somebody who's only doing the normal fight from the hard quests, but from farming the regular quests, it's like you have to do that quest fully 10 times in order to get 1 boss attempt, and I don't have that many skip tickets, so yeah, it's a bit aggressive in terms of what is asked of the player. But as Ari says, apparently I'm a bit unlucky as far as that's concerned.
We'll get some rerun events coming up soon, and you'll get to see just how much easier the previous bosses were.
Presuming they don't just judge them up a bit.
Yeah, they could actually give them abilities that matter.
But yeah, so it's sort of, I keep getting told I've got a good roster, but everything that I see is my roster getting crushed. So
Yeah,
I attempt the clan battle. I do like 0.5% damage. Oh well, okay. Then I attempt the boss. I get crushed within 4 seconds. Oh, okay. I attempt a low level dungeon. I get crushed within seconds. Oh, okay. I'm not doing very well. That's the problem. My roster may be good on paper, but only on paper.
well, you're doing well in your progress cleared relative to the time you started the game, because you're able to clear how much higher level is the stuff that you can clear in the main story quest?
I haven't been advancing it because I've been dumping all my time into the sodding event.
Okay.
So I think I've cleared like 8-1, and that's it, and that's not very high level. Like my actual level is much higher than that, I think.
Okay.
Although I will have to check. Let's see, what is the level in 8.2? Level in 8.2 is 48, and I'm like level 54 or something.
Okay. So yeah, you're about where you should be if you've been farming the event and getting player EXP from that.
Yeah, because it's 1.5 times. So
Yeah.
it makes. But the thing is, it's 1.5 times, but I need gear as well, and gear's double drops from 1.0 times. So, but then I don't get boss tickets. So how do I make decisions?
Well, the clan battle will only last for 5 days, and at the end of the
Well,
5 days,
the clan battle is a bonus.
well, I mean the
Because
double
you generate that passively.
the double drops coincide with the clan battle every month.
Oh, okay, I see.
They will start right before it for the normal quests, and then after a day or two, it will switch to the hard mode double drops, and then once the clan battle ends, the double drops go away, and then you just have the event.
But the important thing with the event, though, is to farm those hard stages for the memory shards. That's the most important part. But
Especially you, because
they're-
Makoto shards.
But they're bonkers stamina hungry.
Oh yeah, they
Like,
eat like 20
it
stamina a pop.
might be easier for you, who's a high level, probably got a longer stamina bar, probably generating a ton of stamina in your guild house. I'm not, so
Yeah.
I can like all day. It would take me all day to clear those quests and have very little left over.
A lot of people tell you not to do it, but if you got the time and you want to do it, at your level, it's probably okay to refresh stamina for the 40 cost ones
No.
if you want to.
No, not going to refresh stamina. Those jewels are precious.
Yeah. So
That's like spending money. No, I don't want to. I need to hoard it for Summer Saren. Like, because so far amongst the cast that I've met, Saren seems to be the most waifuable of them. So,
yeah, everybody loves Saren. Let's see here.
and rightly so.
At max level, I have 182 stamina in my stamina bar.
Yeah, I've got like 112.
So yeah, I boot it up every morning and I have enough stamina sitting in the stamina bar to just clear all the hard quests, and then I just use the daily stuff to fill up the rest of it. And
Like all the hard quests, like in the game.
no.
No.
But
You're
the
just
event.
talking about the event, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
just the event.
I can't do that, but I have actually, the main use I've gotten out of the skip ticket system is that in FGO, I don't have time to do FGO anything before work because I start work relatively early. Well, I leave the house relatively early because I've got a longish commute. So I don't have time to do anything in FGO. Whereas with Pinecone, I can just wake up, pick a stage that has something I want, and then just dump skip tickets into it.
Yep. That'd
And
be
then
how you do.
and then my stamina bar's empty and I don't spend all day wondering if there was some way I could have rearranged my morning so that I didn't waste all that stamina. But yeah. So that it's got that going for it. I think the skip ticket thing is good. Now I know what people are talking about when they've been whining in FGO for the past 5 years for skip system. Because really, the hands aren't going to be that much different the 100th time you do them compared to the second.
Yeah, especially when these games are majority single player. Like, nobody wants to spend a gorillion hours farming. Like, it takes something like 3 or 4 hours of farming hands to max out a character if you just use hands.
Do not want. But that's I suppose the thing that keeps sticking in my craw about Pinecone is I keep wanting to reach for my apples, and I don't have any apples because I don't have apples.
that is the trade-off. While it is very time friendly, it is stamina becomes a constraint.
Yeah, you can't binge even if you want to.
Yeah.
It's like I can binge with the mountain of apples I've got lying around. I can binge as much FGO as I want in any given day, which is how I usually do story when I've got time to do it. It's how I do events when I've got time to do it. But in Pinecone, doesn't matter how much content you want to clear or how hard you want to farm things or whatever. Like you can't. You're gated. But I mean, if you weren't gated like that, they probably wouldn't do double drop events.
Mm-hmm. During the anniversary, we had triple drop, and I actually blew about 10,000 gems worth of stamina refreshes during triple drops.
That's ambitious. I don't think I could bring myself to do that. I'd probably just suck up the fact that I had crappy gear.
Well, I also was approaching max level forever, but never quite touching it.
No, you wanted to finally be in with the cool kids.
Well, more than that, if you're max level, any EXP you would get from daily quests gets converted into dungeon coins.
I see.
So you
Oh,
can.
that makes sense now because you kept saying to me, "Oh, it's really really easy to farm up ascension mats for
Dungeon
dungeon
coins.
characters," but I didn't understand why because it seemed so aggressively hard capped.
Yeah, but
Now I understand.
and
Now I
on
understand.
average, you will get more per day just from the dungeon coins you naturally get for just doing the dungeon than the hard quests, because the hard quests still have to drop them, but the dungeon coins are guaranteed every day.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to talk about gacha anymore or anything else anymore because my throat's starting to get a bit scratchy. So,
Alright. We should then probably take a break.
All right, folks, here's some music. We will be right back. And we're back.
Yes.
Indeed.
Incidentally, I still don't know why I decided to have a border collie. It's shedding
Border
season
collies are the
again.
best. They're the best dog.
They're a very high maintenance dog.
Yeah, we had for our border collie, we had one of those brushes that was essentially a rake,
Yeah.
like a garden rake that we used to collect all of the hair out of her coat before it ended up all over the place. But you had to do it every day, and there was always more hair. How is that even possible?
They have infinite hair. Like I had to strip an undercoat out for my dog this morning, which took about 20 minutes in the bath. But yeah, she's still got another undercoat to go.
That's still my favorite dog, though. Like if I had to if I was going to get a dog again, it would still be a border collie. Knowing all that,
Yeah.
the problem is that I don't think I've got enough energy to keep a border collie.
They're a great dog, but you gotta know what you're getting into ahead of time with them. Anywho, still playing Lost Ark. So got to keep remembering, right click is the primary do things button in this. Keeps catching me out.
Yeah, I keep trying to left click to normal attack things.
Yeah,
There's an option to switch it in the settings menu somewhere.
Do I need left click for anything else?
No, because
would
left
that
click
even
by
cause a
default is
problem?
move.
Yeah, but can't you do both? Every other RPG seems to manage to do both.
Yeah. Oh, let me have a look at the settings. Let's see. Maybe it's accessibility, gameplay, display.
There goes all my mana in Pinecone. It's all gone. All got eaten.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, but I'm not looking super deep yet either, so. Yeah. Anywho. Ari, your week, please.
My week, please.
Your week, please.
Okay. So, my week was not fun. Well, the second half, anyway. Put Pinecone down before I get sucked into trying to map out how much I can afford to spend on Halloween Shinobu to try hard the battle arena. The first half of my week continued off of last week with I was very busy as per usual, as has been the past several weeks of just normal work stuff, trying my best to get caught up. And I've had a reason. I've been frantically trying to have a day where I can go into work and not have anything waiting that needs working on in my inbox.
I think this might be an impossible ask.
Yeah, so
I've solved that problem. I just never look at my inbox.
I mean, that's one way to do it.
My paycheck is directly tied to how successful we are, and I need to keep customers happy. So, I finally got it there at the end of, or at halfway through the day on Wednesday.
Nice.
And the reason I was trying to get to this point is because our taxes are due. It's tax season, federal tax season, the worst tax season.
Oh boy.
Like it's always tax season.
Yeah, it's state tax or local tax, or or some kind of whatever tax. There's a zillion taxes, and I just know because I either get a notification or I look at my calendar that says it's coming up. But federal tax season's a bit more ambiguous for small businesses. So you have a grace period where you can file after your fiscal year of about 4 to 5 months if you're a small business. That's fairly generous, but there's a good reason for that. If you are a small business who has like effectively 2 employees like we do now, somebody's got to sit down and prep all that stuff to send to the CPA. This means you go into work, You sit your little hiney down, you open up your bank's website, you print out, or you either keep it on the other monitor or physically print out every single transaction that hit the company checking account, every single transaction for any liability or loan or company savings or whatever have you, credit cards, etc., and print that out. And then you go onto the company credit card, and you have to physically print this one out because there is no effective way to do this without pen and paper. And you have to print out the entire transaction history of that credit card because the Opossum doesn't keep receipts, and they honestly wouldn't help me that much anyway and would just be nice in case we get audited.
So you can't do digital records for any of that?
Oh, you can, but you have to manually enter it because you got to send this stuff to the CPA.
So they want the manual records anyway.
Yeah, so you can do a digital record, but it has to be manually entered.
That's dumb.
Yes, it is. And it's federal law that requires it.
That explains it.
And so the hardest part, the entering all the transactions that go through the company liabilities and checking is easy. You just go through and you put in whatever the bank says and make sure that the numbers track and add up at the end to whatever your current balance in your bank account is. That's the easy part. It's the most tedious part, but it's the easy part. The hard part, the hard part is keeping track of the company credit card. Especially if that's how you pay your business miscellaneous fees, like your business domain name for your email addresses, or your business phone, stuff like that.
Purchases of random trucks.
Yeah, purchases of random trucks, purchases that just say Amazon.
Oh, that's specific.
So the Amazon ones in particular annoy the ever-living heck out of me because the Opossum buys crap on Amazon, and if he is broke, he will use the company card, even though I tell him over and over and over again, don't do that. It makes this part way harder, and you're just going to have to pay it back anyway. The company is not your piggy bank. And he will go out and he will buy crap on that credit card if he doesn't have enough money for like his kids' birthday presents. So what I have to do is I have to go into his Amazon account and view his order history and pull up all the invoices for the ballpark date range of whenever it cleared the credit card and compare and contrast and see which purchase it is. Sometimes it's stuff that, makes sense to order on Amazon. Stuff like printer paper, printer ink, staples, office supplies. And I can write those off as office supplies and just total and put them in a totaled category. Anything that is like he bought his kids birthday presents, like bought his youngest son video games on the company credit card, I have to put as Loan the Opossum.
Did you actually write his name as the Opossum?
No, I'm censoring his name for
obvious reasons.
with his
because I think
given
you should
title
put it down as the Opossum.
So this year was one of the lighter years that he owed. He owes the company $3,000.
Oof.
And that's me being as generous as humanly possible to him, like putting Longhorn Steakhouse dinners as company outing. Stuff that the IRS is realistically never, ever going to have a way to check.
Yeah.
Because how are they going to prove that? They have to take that to court and prove it, and they can't do that.
They're not going to bother.
It's too much work.
You need to retire that guy.
Yeah, so that is the hard part. And the way you have to do this in the US when you send it to a CPA is you have to, wherever in QuickBooks or your accounting software or in your account ledger that you have an Amex charge, for example, our credit card's American Express, you have to go in there and you have to break it out by category. And this means you have to sit there with the entire last 18 months of the Amex card's history printed out on physical paper and write down beside every single entry, medical reimbursement. Phone. website, or I just put everything down as website if it's to do with either the website or our domain name for our emails and stuff. And this takes forever, because then you get transactions that are just like, I don't have a clue what this is. It's just a string of random characters, and I have to go scream at the opossum, what did you buy on November 12th for $222
Oh.
from this store? And if he doesn't know, I have to go hunting.
Yeah, unfortunately,
He never knows, doesn't he?
the IRS
He knows
doesn't
about-
accept miscellaneous expense as a available entry.
Yeah, you cannot put miscellaneous. It all has to be categorized if it's on a company credit card.
Yeah.
It's if I put other, I have to then describe what the other is and let the CPA figure out where to categorize it. And the more work the CPA has to do, the more they're going to charge me. So I have to try and limit that as much as humanly possible.
Honestly, your whole tax system sounds like it exists only to keep CPAs in jobs.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's
So this is hell to do. I hate it. I hate every minute of it. And every dollar that totals up while I'm doing this, it's just more money I know the government's going to jack from me. And if you talk to me during tax season and ask me anything, even tangentially related or caused by the government, my answer to whatever you said is going to be shoot the government.
That sounds like the standard reaction during tax season, honestly.
Like, I may not quite be that far gone during a normal day, but during tax season, my answer to any question about the government is, that sounds really dumb, you should go shoot the government.
Oh dear.
I don't care what government, I don't care where you are in the world, that is my answer for you. And that's-
taxation.jpg.
And yeah, I hate it with a fiery passion, and it eats all of my free time. I'm there until like 7 o'clock doing this. And for all of Friday and all of Thursday, this was all I did.
That's crazy.
But how will you, if you do not pay them, who will supply the Taliban with military equipment?
The Taliban needs them $4 billion in missiles or whatever. 40, I don't know, way too big a number.
I think it was mainly helicopters, jeeps, and small arms.
But yeah.
Yeah. But I am, as annoying as I hate our tax system at times, it's much better than yours. Like,
Yeah, and that's
they
just Shrek.
go back 20 years and everything was just collapsed into the GST. So all of that stuff just goes GST, you give it all to the Australian Tax Office, and they disseminate it between federal and state from there.
And that
Well, that's
doesn't.
the way it's supposed to work, though. Like in a federation, the state does the taxation, and then they pay the federal government.
Yeah.
Yeah, we effectively don't pay the state of Georgia very much at all. The only thing we ever really owe them is sales tax and a little bit in end of year state tax, but it ain't very much.
Yeah, that's
Plus-
only Georgia,
plus-
though.
Yeah, so it should be that Georgia handles all of the taxes and the federal government can tax the state.
Yes.
But that's the old way of thinking now, and the government needs more money to send to the Taliban. So if you tax all individual businesses on a federal level, they get more money and they get it faster.
Also, we can work completely with digital records. So as long as you enter every sale as it happens, or every transaction as it happens, at the end of the tax period, you can press one button. And it will do
Yes.
tax. That's how
Yeah,
a good
no.
tax system works.
This is in addition to, because my mother was doing the accounting before I was, and she was habitually late. Like, we got a late filing fee every single time we had to file state tax. Sales tax, normally, and they weren't small either, they were like $200, $300 late fees. Normally, I would only have to file sales tax once every quarter. I have to file it once every month because our company got dinged with a penalty because of her.
Yikes.
Like an operations penalty. It now needs to be filed every single month. Which, in a way, I kind of like better because it lets me keep the sales tax ledger cleared out. And that's basically all the money that Georgia gets from me, aside from licenses like incorporation taxes, and unfortunately having to pay Brad Raffensperger's office to not go out of business. But and that's a mess and a half of itself. Just figuring out how much you owe, even if it's nothing, unless you literally didn't charge sales tax, which is another layer of taxes on top of every single invoice and interaction we do that I have to mess with, because we sell to wholesalers a lot. And you know what that means? They're sales tax exempt, which means more paperwork.
You also sell interstate.
And that also is sales tax exempt, which has different but also more paperwork.
Yep. Oh, that whole thing is just like an absolute nightmare.
In fact, the only time the state doesn't get any paperwork from me is when we sell internationally. And even if they are tax exempt, the income still has to be reported. And then you have freight charges, which cannot be totaled normally under 99% of conditions, except sometimes when freight charges are paid a certain way by the customer via collect or something stupid. Then you have to add the charge onto that and do tax on that. I hate the government. I'm about to go back to full libertarian tard for a few weeks and be waving the Gadsden flag until I get my head screwed back on.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't do that.
So,
because otherwise then you do that and then the paperwork will still be there.
Honk honk mother truckers.
Honk.
So yeah, that has been the majority of my week, except for Tuesday. Tuesday, I actually got on, played a little bit of Final Fantasy, and took the evening off to just relax, because it was my birthday. And went out to the Japanese steakhouse with my family for dinner, and they pestered me to death last weekend to pick something, anything, to get for my birthday, because I didn't want anything. I never want anything for my birthday or Christmas. I'm just like, just get whatever you want to get me. It doesn't matter. And finally, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll pick something. And my monitors, until I got this new one, my monitors' aspect ratios were different, even though they were the same size. One of them was 1920 by 1080, and the other was one was 1440p. So I had a smaller right monitor in aspect ratio, and this was driving me nuts, but not nuts enough to go drop $250, $300 on a monitor. So I just asked for a new monitor. So now I have two nice 32-inch 1440p monitors.
Nice. I admit my monitors are actually two different sizes, but they've got the same aspect ratio, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, this causes all kinds of little issues when you're doing stuff like trying to play a game in maximize window mode.
Yeah.
Where the game will slightly clip into the other monitor.
If it doesn't just wig out completely.
Yeah. And I had to use like Display Fusion function commands to fix it. Display Fusion's been a really handy app.
Yeah.
But what do you call it? So yeah, I got to sit down, and Abo got me the NES Bloodstained game for my birthday. The you know how
out.
the blood. Yeah, it's been out. The first one's been out forever. Yeah. But the second one came out recently-ish, and I just threw it on my wish list when I restocked it for birthday. You have no idea how hard it is to stock that stupid wish list for Christmas and birthday.
I just throw everything I find remotely interesting on there and leave it at that for Steam.
Because there will be stuff that I buy on other platforms that I need to prune from the list, or stuff that I just don't have any interest in anymore that needs to come off the list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I sort of hesitate to do it because I know that I feel bad basically when people buy stuff from my wish list, because there's a 90% chance that I will never play it.
Yeah.
Because that's all stuff that I want to play. But that's not enough in the real world to want to play something.
Like some of the
you
stuff
need
on
to also
there,
have time.
Yeah, some of the stuff on there, it's like, okay, if someone gives it to me, I'm not going to say no. I might play it, or it's just on there so I can keep tabs on it, see if it becomes playable later. Or just grab it when it's on sale or something like that. So it's very rare I actually just wishlist a game I really genuinely want to play.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to wishlist it. I just go and buy it.
So I successfully managed to restock the thing with enough Vidya on there that it should hold until at least the end of Christmas. and cleaned out the stuff that I wasn't interested in anymore or already bought
Nice.
on a different platform. And then we figured out that the new Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, the NES side series, has 2-player mode in it.
Oh, nice.
When I got on that evening, but it's couch co-op only, so he had to play remote connecting to me.
Because it would be too hard for him to come out of his room.
Yeah. So after jiggering with that for a bit, we managed to get to the last boss with 2 players. The game is significantly easier, despite its NES hard style, with 2 people, because you have twice the DPS to kill bosses.
Yep.
Of a 1-player run.
So it doesn't scale because there's an additional player.
No.
Yeah.
We're talking a real simple game here, Castlevania style, with clear the stage, beat the boss, kind of deal here.
Yeah.
But the levels are fun, and it's a fun game. There are multiple routes you can take through the level that get you different power ups and upgrades, and lead to different bosses and stuff. And once you beat the game once, you can go through with all characters unlocked. And the way your lives work in the Bloodstained game, 1 life is only taken away when all of the characters you've currently unlocked die. So you start with just Zangetsu, or 2 Zangetsus if you're playing 2-player. And when one you or your buddy dies, if you're playing 2-player, they're out until the other person dies as well. And then you unlock Dominique, the church inquisitor lady. And then you have 3 characters. And then if somebody dies, they can just pick up whatever character's in reserve, either one of the 2 Zangetsus or Dominique. And you add to this roster with about 4 or 5 characters. And you just keep cycling through. The best one is a little corgi that pilots a robot mech and just goes arf arf all the time.
That sounds adorable and I want it.
Yes, it's also probably the best character in the game.
As it should be.
But yeah, we had a lot of fun with messing around with that for an evening. And we did not beat the last boss. The last boss is very hard, even with 2 people, and requires practice. And I had to go to bed. I had to get up and immediately start tax work tomorrow, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning. So I had to call it there, and we haven't picked it back up since. Don't know if we'll go back and finish it and experiment with it or not, but it was a fun time. I played like 1 evening of Final Fantasy. Not even an evening, like an hour of Final Fantasy, and did like a leveling roulette on my Bard, and that was it. That was all my Final Fantasy for the week. And then I did play 1 game a little bit this week. And it's a revisit of an older game that I'd played before. Because it got a absolutely massive free update.
I like them free updates.
Yeah. So the original game was nothing to write home about. It was Death's Gambit was the original game. And it was a heavily Dark Souls inspired Metroid style game, like, so many of the games I play are. But this one felt a little shallow. It was short. The levels were pretty small, and the level design wasn't very interesting, and the upgrades were kind of one note. It's been updated to Death's Gambit Afterlife, which more than doubles the size of all the areas in the game, massively expands the world map, and tacks on a whole back half of the game that wasn't there before with brand new areas.
That sounds like a pretty hefty upgrade.
Yeah, it more than doubled the size of the game. And
Nice.
It corrected a lot of issues the game had with like combat and stuff. And it went from, I'm not even going to mention this on the show because it's not worth it, to yeah, this is pretty good now. Nowhere near finishing it because I just haven't had time this week. But I poked a little bit at it and got about halfway through what the initial game was. And it's a good time. They bumped the overall challenge up a little bit, but they've given you more tools to deal with that challenge, which I like. As long as you go and explore, you'll find more powers and upgrades and ways to play,
All right.
and new items to try.
They put it as a free update?
I'm pretty sure it was free. I did buy the DLC. I don't think it came packaged with that, but yeah, I'd heard about the Afterlife update and wanted to check that out. But I think everything except some of the challenges in one area is included in a free update.
Nice.
And 1 super boss that's in the DLC. The DLC was on sale for like $2, so I scooped that.
Oh, that
But
price.
but yeah, and it's generally a good game. It's heavily Dark Souls inspired, and you like full stat builds, inventory management. You know, do you want to go strength, dex, or magic? That type of thing.
Mhm.
Very timing focused in its combat, learning boss patterns. You know, stuff like that. If you're doing level appropriate content, you should be wiping several times learning the boss properly, which I like and enjoy. And just gives me a nice thing to kill time with until Elden Ring comes out, which I hope to play when it comes out. I will try to set it aside sometime the day it comes out because I'm going to be wrapped up doing a startup that day anyway. When I get back, I'm going to be too tired to do taxes, and I'll try and get at least some hours played in that day. And
Yeah.
because that's everybody's waiting for Elden Ring, and that's basically what we're all doing.
That seems like where the hype train is firmly parked at the moment, right on Elden.
Yeah, they were confident enough to do that network test, and the network test came back with overwhelmingly positive talks about it. And that network test was massive for just the amount of game they let you play.
It's like the first 2 chapters, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, you could run around like a whole quarter to a third of the map.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
And that was huge. That was like veterans were taking 16 plus hours to fully explore it.
Yeah, I never really snapped with the Dark Souls games.
It took me a long time.
Yeah,
I did not like them at first.
it's something that you've really got to kind of work and get into. But when you do, it seems like it's really worthwhile.
When the series finally clicks and all the pieces in your head just kind of align on how you're supposed to think about this game and approach it, they're a ton of fun. But it takes a long time for some people to get that click. It took a while for me to get that click. It took years for that click to happen. All 3 of the original Dark Souls games were out before the click finally happened.
Yeah, so I might give Elden Ring a go. See if I actually get time.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is we have all these wonderful games we want to play, but we got to file taxes.
Yeah, it's got to adult.
Yeah, it's a total mess. I hate being an adult. It sucks. Especially, I would not have a problem being an adult, if we were our parents' age and we're coming into our adulting then, when we had reasonable prospects for families and could take responsibility, and our choices and partners were not covered in pink hair. But then it's not the times we live in.
Covered
in pink hair. That's
like Congalala.
Oh, they don't shave
there
anymore.
You go.
Yeah. Like, have you seen some of the new pink-haired chimpanzees that come out? They don't shave their hair anymore. And they dye it in the really extreme ones.
Like I said, Congalala.
Dyed body hair?
Yeah.
Why?
Have seen it in real life.
Why? No. I'm going to ignore that you said that, and then I'll be a lot happier for it.
Would have taken a picture at the time, although I was in line of sight of her, and did not want to seem like that guy.
That might have been impolitic.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a mess. Lots of games to play. Hopefully next week I'll be able to come back and talk to you about Elden Ring, which I'm sure is what people actually want to hear about. So until then, you get my filler week.
Honestly, I think we're starting to reach a point where even if we were completely unemployed, we still wouldn't have enough time to play all the games we want to.
Oh yeah, I've got so much game bloat. I will just sometimes open my Steam list and go, I don't know which one to play.
I don't know what to play
because there's so many.
I want to do that one as well.
Oh yeah. Eventually, I will just throw a dart at a dartboard in my head, and just kind of wherever my eyes fall is the game I play.
Yeah, I've tried that. Sometimes it works, but other times it just doesn't snap. And I'll just get the urge to play something completely random instead.
And then we're also semi-actively playing an MMO right now on top of everything else.
Yeah, semi-actively.
Yeah,
we can.
Yeah, and we keep the sub up, and we do log on and actually play at least once a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my week. I got I don't have anything else.
Right, we have an email.
A he-mail?
Email.
Better than a she-mail, I guess.
Leaving that alone.
Well, why did you have to go there?
I mean,
Anyway.
we were starting in the taint earlier in the show, so
It's not.
This is true.
It's not. Anyway, the email. Dear No Excuses. So about High Guardian Spice being the way it is, blamed on the budget. I'd have actually accepted such an excuse until Astartes, which mind you was made with a budget of $0. But Flash, Little Witch Academia, seriously, just burn CalArts to the ground.
Agreed.
Since Space Travel Idol's development seems to have sputtered out, and Melvor Idol is Sandbox, it's literally Idle RuneScape, I came across another do-nothing game, Your Chronicle, a text adventure idol. It's actually pretty fun, but there are so many bonuses upon bonuses that I completely lost track of how many of the dozen different ways to make the number go big. But I'm going to defeat the Demon King or something. Or something, because apparently there are multiple story branches and endings. Now, that's something I haven't seen in an idle game before. Except Crush Crush, which I played for the story because the H scenes were so boring. I was more interested in just how crazy the next girl would be. Reminder, seducing the Antichrist to stop her from destroying Earth is not even the final girl in Crush Crush.
Oh
But
yeah,
you
that's
know
right.
what else but you know what else has dozens of mechanics upon mechanics? Lost Ark. So I have made the mistake of buying the Bronze Founder Pack. It was only €15, no biddy. But then made the mistake of going to Kadan server where all the other Hungarians are. That is the single most highly populated server. There are like 4 to 5 hour queues to get in. And the way the game starts, you make character, choose class, etc., etc. Then literally 1 minute in, you choose an advanced class. That is the real class. The game is very Korean. Every attack seems to have sparkles or an unnecessary pirouette or flourish that sends enemies flying. When you finish a quest, the NPCs are so amazed by how awesome you are that they might as well need a dry pair of underwear. Said quests take 10 steps out of camp and kill at max 5 mobs that go down in 2 hits and bring back a sack of potatoes. What comes after Bellula described as mental waterboarding? You get 5 or so mechanics shoved in your face. Collecting cards, collecting collectibles like local food, pixel hunting for one interactable sack of grain, etc. Regional elite mods, tiny little seeds that are obscured by the foreground, building rep with select NPCs by showering them with gifts or playing their favourite music after you found a music sheet, etc. Speaking of music, your teleport spell, whipping out a magical electrical guitar and playing a riff. What am I playing here? I literally can't even with this game. Partly because of the 5 hour queues and partly because it's so much like every other F2P mobile ARPG. We have Path of Exile and Diablo 3 already. Serathus.
This is Path of Exile, the Path of Exile we have at home.
yeah. So
I've never played Path of Exile. I installed it once and eventually I uninstalled it again because I never got around to it.
Path of Exile it's a fun game. It's got cool mechanics, but then it's like we don't want to use money as our currency. Let's just use everything else instead.
Well, that's true in every ARPG usually because the currency itself becomes worthless.
Yeah, so they just skipped a step really.
Yeah, I had a Path of Exile installed. Made it through the tutorial once a long time ago. Don't remember a thing about it, and never played it again.
It's pretty.
Everything I
honestly.
know about Path of Exile was bequeathed to me by the almighty Seth.
Yes. So yeah, I don't mind Path of Exile, but it is almost painfully generic, honestly.
Yeah. So I didn't tell y'all about my experience with Whatchamadoodle with Lost Ark because I did it separately from Vol and Fern because they did their initial spurge during the time when Super Bowl Sunday was going on.
It was kind of a spur of the moment, Spurglord time anyway.
Yeah, and I had already accepted an offer to come and eat dinner at the Opossum's house because he made me work all day Sunday.
Yeah, we took several hours to do what was probably about 25 minutes of content.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't actually remember where I got up to. The game left such a lackluster impression on me that I barely remember anything. The only thing I remember is spending forever futzing with the controls until I gave up and finally plugged in a pad and got something working on that.
I can use the default controls, but they're not the best.
Well, I don't know if it was on the show we did or before the show, but Fern knows just how many times I ranted about needing to redo my keybinds.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of both.
Yeah, it's they give you so much up front that you don't have time to get a feel for what buttons you're going to push a lot, and they don't do a good job of easing you into that at all. So you wind up with this bloated action bar that you can never get quite comfortable because you realize this ability does something slightly differently. And this is if you're playing organically too. If you're playing like a normal person, I have no idea what you do. And if you like, not a normal person, but like somebody that's looking all this stuff up, I don't know how you would parse that in your brain to come up with something comfortable. But yeah, it felt too much.
You've got your 8 active actions. You've got up to 2 special actions, depending on your class.
Or none if you're me.
Or none if you're the chick gunslinger, what it's called. 2 if you're a gun lancer. Plus over here, you've got 6 slots for potions and mounts, and then another 4 slots down there for special items, which is 4 different consumables.
Something that drives me nuts about this game, especially with female gunslinger, its shotgun abilities are locked to the bottom of the 2 left bars, and the sniper abilities are locked to the top of the 2 left bars.
Wait, so you can't move them?
Wait, what?
You cannot drop them down or...
I've got categorized abilities, and I can move mine freely around.
Yeah, they will not let me move it unless I'm just blind and missed an option somewhere.
No, I just drag. That's all I needed to do. Drag.
Yeah, it said no.
That's very strange.
Well, a hand reached out of the screen and slapped you in the face when you tried it.
It would not let me drag those stupid things. And this is incredibly frustrating and would not let me get a good handle on a control scheme more than anything because these 2 things had a separate key bindings and positions, and it was too hard to remember it when I had to switch to a different position when I pulled out a different weapon. It was really, really stupid.
Yeah, okay. I've not encountered that. I've the stuff on the right over here is restricted. Like you can only put out there and potions kind of here. These things down here need to be where they are.
Like boot up a female gunslinger at some point and let me know if I'm just crazy.
Okay, hang on. I've just entered a dungeon. I might do it by the end of the show. Should have a character slot. Actually, no, I'll do it now. Let's see.
How many character slots are you allowed anyway?
6. And then there's another 6 if you pay for them. Just come back in the dungeon up. Let's see. Switch characters. No, hang on. I've got to go back to character select. Oh. They're not allowed to. Fine. Be like that.
Game says no.
Game says no because I'm in a dungeon. Which means I need to adventure and I need to play my electric guitar to get out of this dungeon. As gunslinger, you get electric guitar. Every class has a different instrument. Like all your warriors use hunting horns and things like that. But yeah, the gunners, electric guitar. For reasons.
I mean, there are worse instruments.
Yeah.
Remember, the triangle and the vuvuzela are things.
That they are. The kazoo. Yeah. We all remember the, basically every sporting event ever a few years ago where it sounded like the pitch was being invaded by 1,000 bees.
Mm-hmm. Especially soccer games.
Well, it's a South American soccer thing.
Yes, so it's South Americans' fault. Alright, so Lady Gunner. Actually try to make a character who's restricted to one subclass, so I'm interested to see what happens here. Interesting.
They give you a choose option still. It's just that there's only one option.
There's only one option.
It's quite funny.
I don't know if they make you go through the little section with the white glowy lady at the start for every single character.
They do.
But yeah, it will act like you have to pick stuff. And if I didn't have you guys mentioning that there were subclasses, I would be very confused.
Yeah, well, it's because they're planning to bolt on more as they go. Like there are no clone classes for starters. Like just because you might have a equivalent doesn't mean they're the same. Their mechanics, the core mechanic is different in each case. even if there are some ability overlaps, it's something like it comes down to about like 50 or 60% of abilities are the same, but the way it pans out late game is different for the different genders of the same archetype. But yeah, they're planning to bolt on the alternate gender versions of each class as they go, but they aren't doing clones. And of course, there's the extra category of specialists that they're adding later, which is going to have artist and aeromancer and stuff like that. The artist one, like
Yes.
the attack graphics are really gorgeous. It's really quite great looking, but it also seems to be a lolly class, and I think aeromancer is as well, which is armed with an umbrella and uses the weather to fight.
It's just the lolly class. So, yeah. Incidentally, for launch, they've actually swapped out one of the classes. In the earlier betas, they had the summoner rather than the sorceress, but they've swapped it out, which is
Yeah,
kind of
the
interesting.
summoner will be coming. I don't know why. Maybe they've ran into some bug with it that they couldn't resolve in time, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Oh
Because
dear.
they are probably developing all of them. It's just a matter of which ones are ready to push on release, or which they thought marketing wise was a better strategy. Because maybe they just wanted to have an orthodox sorceress in there because it's, traditionally what you would have.
Yeah, considering your other option is Bard. I need to deal with this.
That's one of the other sort of flaws in the game design generally, is that Bard or Paladin are mandatory for groups later on because they're the only support classes and you kind of need to have one. And their DPS output is miserable though, apparently. Like, no matter how, if you devote all of your time and effort to building your Bard or your Paladin for DPS, their DPS will still be a joke compared to any of the other class, which makes sense. But in the context of the fact that you have to play most of the game solo, generally speaking, it seems like it makes playing the necessary support classes unnecessarily onerous.
Yeah. There we go. Just had
So,
to head off an early attempt at doggo time.
so you're sort of depressing the population, I suppose, to some extent.
Hmm. Oh, good grief, this character has Bayonetta proportions.
Yeah, I wasn't kidding about that booty.
Them legs, they go all the way up.
Yep, she have giraffe legs and a booty that don't quit.
So, yeah, again, Korean MMO. Actually go in here. Character, choose class, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, it gives you the choice. I guess they just leave it in there to...
Yeah, it's just
There will eventually be another choice.
Yeah, so it's just there.
It's a save time later thing, but
Yeah, I can swap these freely. Handgun
between
stance,
the top and bottom
handgun
bar.
stance, handgun.
No, switch to your shotgun and try and move the ability on your shotgun.
Okay, I'm in shotgun stance. There's shotgun stance. Oh, I see what you're talking about. Those four slots are locked,
Yeah,
and
it won't let you put it up there.
rifle stance is the opposite.
Yeah,
Okay,
which would make sense if those eventually combine or something, I guess.
I
But
guess.
I don't have context to understand what you're talking about.
So yeah, you've got 4 slots. You've got slots 1 through 8 for your pistols, for your handguns. You put abilities into all of those. So
Right.
switch it to the shotgun. You've got slots 1 through 4, and then 5 through 8 are locked.
When you say locked, you mean what?
you
As
can't
in,
put anything there.
they've actually got little padlocks on them.
Right.
Those
'cause
slots are
you
unusable.
wouldn't- Right, yeah, that makes sense because you switch to a different stance, so your abilities for a different stance won't be usable in it.
Okay,
So what they've
and when you're
essentially, you do still have 16 abilities. So you've got your 8s for your gun, you've got 4 for shotgun, and you've got 4 for rifle.
what we're saying, Vol, is that when you have the pistols out, you can use slots 1 through 8 freely and move the abilities around however you want in whatever configuration for whatever hotkeys you have assigned for those buttons. You switch to shotgun, you're allowed slots 1 through 4 and 4 through 8. You cannot hotkey to a shotgun ability while the shotgun's out, and only shotgun abilities are on your bar. If you switch to a sniper rifle, only slots 5 through 8 are available, and slots 1 through 4 cannot be hotkeyed to a sniper rifle ability.
So it would have been easier if you had just said that the top hot bar exclusively can use the shotgun skills, and the bottom hotbar can exclusively use rifle skills.
Well, you know how I am about explaining stuff. I'm terrible at it.
So, yeah, I think there must be some sort of back end reason why it's like that.
Maybe later it gets some kind of way to mash the shotgun and the sniper together into just a separate stance.
Well, it wouldn't make sense because it's a stance-based class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
You can't use revenge and berserker stance. Like it's not. It doesn't make sense.
But yeah, I don't know why they won't let us just keep all our activatables on one bar.
Because you can't use them if you're in a different stance.
No, yes, but all the other buttons just disappear when you go into the different stance. They just go poof.
Yeah, because you can't use them when you're not in that stance.
So I switched to shotgun stance. Why can't I have shotgun blast ability 1 on hotkey 1 and switch to sniper rifle? And why is it locked to slot 5 through 8? And why can't I just pick it up and put it in slot 1?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They have locked the hotbars. It's not like that. It does not like it doesn't make sense that you have different abilities available. What doesn't make sense is the fact that they decided to bind the hotbars to particular stances, like it was a pet bar.
Yeah, that's what's frustrating about it.
Yeah, it's just a bit silly. Like I said, I think there's probably a back end reason for it. Like instead of assigning 3 separate hotbars, they've just used 2 hotbars and then just.
If you think about it in terms of their default recommended control scheme, it doesn't make even any sense to ask the question because you would just use different buttons.
Yeah.
It's only if you have cooked up your own scheme that suddenly it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Because as far as the game is concerned, you're just using arbitrary letter keys for all of your abilities.
Yeah, this is only a problem if you don't like the default.
This is purely an ergonomic problem. This isn't actually an input problem, and they probably weren't thinking about ergonomics.
I'll try the gunslinger out, seeing as I've created it now.
But yeah, the game left such a. It didn't even leave an impression on me. I imagine I'll forget about it, and if it lasts 2 weeks in my brain, I'll be surprised.
I honestly expect it to kind of go that way for everyone. Once Elden Ring comes out, that'll be it. It'll just fade.
It's like your 15 minutes of fame are done now. I hope you enjoyed them.
Like we've seen that happen a lot. Like, Fall Guys was one. There was a week there, everyone was talking about it, and then it just disappeared.
Well, Fall Guys had a good month where people were at least playing it, and then it kind of fell off the map.
Yeah, I still like Fall Guys. It's a lot of fun. And there are still people playing it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, anywho, what else was in that email?
It was mostly Lost Ark stuff, but he talked
And
about
more of
idle
his
games.
I don't play them. I just don't play them. Like, it's probably one of the few genres I actually have the energy to play, but I still don't want to play them.
Although, admittedly, a text-based idle game sounds just strange enough that I'll try it.
How can you be idle and yet still type in text? I don't comprehend.
I don't know, and that's, I think, why I need to have a look. There's a lot of idle games out there, and most of them are just appallingly bad.
I'm somewhat perturbed by the fact that the game he most commonly shills to us other than Doom is an adult game.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know what he's trying to do here.
Trying to
Oh,
appeal
I
to
know.
everybody's base nature.
I know who he's trying to do, but I'm not sure what.
Christ?
Yes, it says so in the email.
The gutter. What a familiar place.
It's an old friend.
It is an old friend.
It's like home. It smells like money.
Oh, that... Okay, this class is kind of jank.
Well, they all feel kind of jank when you start them.
Yeah, but I think I get what it's supposed to be doing. You're supposed to flip to shotgun and sniper rifle, use a long cooldown ability, and then switch back to pistols for everything else.
Yes, and this makes the hotkey problem even worse because
Yeah, because you're going to be flipping back and forth so quick.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can see where things are getting off the rails already.
Yeah, you can see why my impression of this game was lacking. With this as my starting class, especially.
Yeah.
But like I've said, virtually everybody says that the classes are almost non-functional until max level. Like they just are a series of abilities that are unconnected and meaningless,
Yeah,
and that it's an engraving system that actually makes them make sense.
yeah. Like you see the basic outline of some synergies, but it's like there's extra bits missing from a lot of the abilities.
I've even
Because
heard
there
people
are.
claim that you can speed track your character once you know what you're doing and where you're going. You can speed track your character to max level in a matter of hours.
Okay. I assume you can't really do that with your first character though.
Well, only because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, but theoretically, you can just blaze through the content really, really fast if you know where you're going and what you're doing.
Yeah. Like I can get through up to that point where we left the point 5 show at. I can get there in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, like I said, we spend an awful lot of time dicking about.
Yeah. You also kind of prune or there's a lot of faffing about that you need to do the first time, but you don't need to do it any other time.
Not like checking out the vistas and stuff.
The vistas, a lot of the tutorial quests, all of the what do they call it? Screw it. The romance quests,
Oh, the social link stuff?
the social link stuff. You only need to do those once per account.
Where you hear about just how bad the barmaid is at cooking.
Yeah,
Which is
I admit
weird
that
because
was
her
actually kind of
description-
amusing.
Her description, although like the character description says she's actually a surprisingly good cook, but all of the quest dialogue says that she's an unspeakably awful cook. So I don't know what they're really going for there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's still a bit of janky translation that snuck through.
Yeah, maybe. That's
Like,
really
a-
pretty sloppy. if
a lot
you,
of,
if you, the complete antonym is what you arrive at.
Yeah, a lot of Korean MMOs, they'll maybe do their main storyline as properly translated, and then everything else gets the Google Translate treatment.
Yeah, maybe
Or
like one of those bios.
arbitrarily written.
Yeah, maybe one of those descriptors was written from the perspective of her, and one was written from the perspective of another character in original Korean
Yeah.
or something.
Incidentally, just to show you how ridiculous some of these collectibles are, I'm in the church now, and I'll just walk through this wall here. There is absolutely no indication that you can do this.
Those are all over the game as well.
Yeah.
They're like actually classified as secret passages.
Yeah. And there's 2 of those seed thingies down there. Like, a lot of games, when they do let you walk through walls like that, there's usually at least some sort of hint. Like it might be a slightly different color or something like that.
In some cases, yes. There are a lot of games that are extraordinarily cruel about it.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
Rabby Ribby,
Rabby Ribby, yeah.
the one with negative indication where you just have to drop carrot bombs everywhere.
Just
I mean-
guess.
There were sometimes there was a hint in like the Commander Keen games, like there would be a slight
Sometimes.
disruption of the texture of the solid wall that would allow you to determine that maybe there was something here, but also those disruptions in the textures existed naturally due to the texture tessellation, and also vertical ones tended not to have any indicator.
Yeah. And Commander Keen had this annoying habit of waiting for you to get nice and established into a rhythm and then just giving you the gigantic middle finger.
And,
Yeah.
secret passages in Neverwinter Nights just required you to roll a good spot check. There was
Yeah.
no way to manually find them, even if you knew where they were.
Yeah,
There was,
the dice were king.
What's a way to put this? I can tell where they are, even if the game doesn't hint in a Metroid style game, because I'm just so used to the subgenre now. But you get to like any isometric game, and I don't have a clue what I'm looking for. But in like, if a path dead ends in a Metroid game and only has a not very valuable item at the end, but the wall and the map layout is conspicuous in a way that I've seen several times in other games, I'll just start whacking the wall, even if there's no indication, because probably means there's about a 30% chance there's a secret over there.
Yeah, side-scrolling Metroidvanias, there's really only so many ways you can hide a secret room.
Oh, and they all, whether they realize it or not as developers, all use the same tricks to telegraph them.
Yes.
I think that that's convention. Like There are certain things that people expect from that genre, and secret passages in these particular places are one of them.
Yeah.
But in an isometric game, I have no clue where to even begin looking for secret junk.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a path that walks away from the map, but it's not marked on the map. Grim Dawn, if you look closely at the minimap, there will be a discolored section, or even just an outright outline of the hidden room there, but it's just not filled in.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because of the way that the minimap's presented, how it looks like it's kind of on parchment. So you can kind of see where a secret room's supposed to be. But that's not always true. Yeah, generally, a lot of these games, there will be some indication that there's something there. But I guess because this is an MMO, you can crowdsource secrets. And people kind of expect you to crowdsource information at this point.
No, you just go to Lost Ark map and then you look.
Yeah.
Yeah, interactable maps exist for most RPG style games these days. If you really just want to find everything.
Yeah.
If you need your last few Chivos and you missed a few collectibles and not sure where they are, there's an interactable map somewhere on the internet that has everything filled out.
Yeah. Amazon got really narky when people started making them for New World, though. Because
I don't know why. Like, it's like my game designed to make autists play it is being played by autists.
Yeah, they went out of their way to kill any minimap mods that people would make. So people just said, you know what? We don't need a minimap. We have second screens. So, yeah. And Amazon can't do squat about those. But yeah, there are still people apparently playing New World. Why?
It happens with
them.
Yeah, it happens to every.
Yeah.
You get invested in the hype train, and you sometimes just keep on trucking.
Yeah, I suppose I came into this game at least with kind of what is the opposite of a hype train? Whatever that is.
The ones that take you to Auschwitz.
Oh dear.
Yeah, we're gonna get banned from YouTube.
I mean, yes, but why you say things like this?
I can't.
No, don't. Please don't.
I want to real bad, internet.
Please don't.
But yeah.
Yeah. I came into this game with such low expectations and honestly bad opinions.
Raised.
Yeah. The only thing it could do was impress, I suppose.
Yeah, I would have forgot this game existed if y'all weren't talking about it, because I've been so busy lately.
Well, it's also not really that memorable, to be honest.
No, it's really not.
Like, I had fun playing it, for sure, but I was also playing with Fern, and playing with a friend can save a lot of things, so...
Yeah. Like, playing on your own, it's a nice time killer, but once I put it down, I'm not really going to think about it again.
Yeah.
Anywho, so that tangented all over the place and went some really horrible places. Thanks, Zarathus, for the email. I might actually take a look at that idle game, because text-based idle game just sounds weird. Idle games... There's a lot of really just awful ones out there, and there's even... I
thought they were supposed to be awful by definition.
Some of them are, yeah. A lot of it is just do thing to make the number get bigger. And unfortunately, especially on the mobile market, it is spend money to make the money get bigger.
I'm not genuinely expecting the genre to have advanced much beyond Cookie Clicker, to be honest.
I mean, there's a D&D one, which has Deacon and Minsk in it, together.
But it's still a game designed for you to do nothing.
Yeah, you basically set your party of adventurers walking in a straight line, they'll occasionally fight a monster. So yeah, you can team up Deacon, Minsk, and Jim Darkmagic all together. Enjoy. You have to pay for the privilege, of course.
Pay to play a game that you don't play.
And you have just discovered the core principle of the idle genre.
Gotta make that number bigger.
Gotta make the number bigger. They prey on people's compulsion to make the number bigger by providing a way to make the number slightly bigger.
Well, bigger, faster.
Yes, slightly bigger, slightly faster. Yeah, most of them are just appallingly awful. Right. Actually, that was what I kind of expected this game to be, because there's a lot of Korean MMOs where they'll have a autoplay button, where you just kind of set your character on a path, you press the button, and it'll just go and grind for itself. And I'm honestly surprised this game does not have that button.
Oh yeah, it's a thing in Eastern MMOs. A lot of them, especially these kind of ones that just pop out of nowhere, that they'll have programmable macros for the user to make.
Yep.
They'll just let you make your own bot.
Yeah. Oh no, this is actually built into the game, right out of the box.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not even, you don't even need to do anything. You just press the button.
So yeah,
that is the worst thing, I think.
Well, it did make up a good chunk of everybody else in the world's time. We've been on Lost Ark for quite a while.
We have, and this is probably going to be the last week we actually talk about it.
Yeah, because I don't see myself spending much time with it, to be quite blunt.
Nah. Alright, news! Everyone played Lost Ark, that's the news.
Yeah, we're kind of reaching again like we were last week for news.
Yeah, admittedly, next week everyone's going to be playing Elden Ring, so...
I will do my best, guys. I have it pre-ordered, and I'll preload it and try and get it played after work.
Yeah. See what happens. Alright, what newslets do we have?
So
we one about it being censored.
That's the... Okay, if it's the one, I find it extremely dumb. Let's carry on then.
Right, so it seems like Lost Ark has been modified a little bit. Like, it's contentious about exactly what was done, but the one that isn't contentious is that they've done a terror to a bunch of the outfits and replaced them with ones that are not so revealing, because people who are going to play a Korean grind MMO are going to be startled by the state of their character's dress or lack thereof.
They can still calling leg guards. I've got that backwards. They're calling a piece of string with maybe a tassel hanging off it leg guards.
Well, I mean, maybe it's got magic leg guarding powers.
So they've been very inconsistent with their censorship, if that's the case.
Well, the thing is that that's the weird thing about it, is that they changed the starting armors to be less revealing, but all of those armors are still in the game and you will get them.
Yeah.
And so they have decided to evade the accusation of censorship by saying they're still in the game, while walking face first into the accusation of censorship because they decided to interfere for some reason.
It just makes it more obvious when you're inconsistent about it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, they aren't accomplishing anything. There's no end result that benefits anybody. It doesn't benefit them, it doesn't benefit any of the players. It's just nonsense.
I'm still going to call this a slight improvement over the usual, though, because at least they're not... I'm going to be nice and say patting themselves on the back in public. I was going to use a much harsher euphemism there.
It's an improvement. They didn't actually just lie about it, which is what I kind of expected.
Well, yeah, lying about it is the norm. And then when they're discovered, they say, "Oh, we did it for your own good." Aren't we great?
No. But yeah, the other thing that people say is that apparently there are characters that have just sort of mysteriously become, quote, diverse, unquote. They've transformed characters to be darker skinned where they were previously not. I've seen a lot of arguing about this, and people say, "Oh no, it's either it's a good thing or it's not actually, it hasn't actually been done. It's just a shader bug," which doesn't.
No, not from the screenshots.
That's not a shader bug in that screenshot.
That is not a shader bug.
Yeah, I find it difficult to credit.
If it was a shader bug, she'd be purple.
Yeah, and a perfectly uniform shade of purple.
And her hair would be
But,
the same.
Or 255 green.
Yeah,
That's another popular one.
that's not a
But
popular
yeah,
one.
So yeah, all of the character, random selection of arbitrary important NPCs have also become Justin Trudeau. So
So just
yeah.
why? Why bother?
The
No one
only-
actually cares anyway because no one's looking at the NPCs.
Yeah, and I don't see why they would do this. But they haven't spoken about this, so I don't know what the motivation they are going to claim is behind it. But,
Again,
you know.
still an improvement. Because again, they're not playing with themselves in public over it again.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. But yeah,
You and the accidental euphemisms today.
Oh, there's nothing accidental about that. I'm being quite literal on that one.
But yeah, so apparently they had also changed like in-game art on the collectibles to be darker skinned. So I fail to see how that could be a shader bug.
Yeah, that's definitely
Based
not
on-
a shader bug.
Yeah, because there's no shaders being applied to the 2D artwork. But
No.
yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. It's like they couldn't resist. They had to diddle around with the original material.
It is Amazon. They couldn't just
Yeah,
leave
that-
well enough alone.
That be what they do.
But yeah,
Speaking of localization efforts, there has been a new there's been the localization for River City Girls Zero has been released on Switch. The other versions are coming eventually. When do they say? Northern Hemisphere spring. But yeah, so the interesting thing about this one is that they have offered 2 scripts, apparently, or something like that. I didn't really understand a lot of the discourse on this, but supposedly they added a feature where you can have a more translation style script in addition to a localized script.
I really like this idea. You're able to switch between the two. So both are just there as options for everyone.
You know,
So
you
I
get-
think that's great because while I don't know Japanese, I can discern enough Japanese from speech patterns and a tiny amount of vocab that I can tell when I'm being lied to by the localizer, which happened constantly in Tales of Berseria.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why I'm so much more sour about that game than Aristeel was, where otherwise I might be more positive, is because I could tell that what I was being delivered in English was not what was being said in the Japanese, because I played through with the Japanese voiceover. But in this case, they are just offering you with the option to have a translation that is done based on the actual content of what was said, rather than trying to make it adapted to a different audience, which I would like to note is not something any end user has ever asked for from a video game, as far as I'm aware.
Yes.
Well,
I'm
not people that actually play video games anyway.
I'm buying this game that is Japanese with a Japanese story and Japanese theming, but I want it to relate to me.
well, it's
And it's going to make my awful, terrible Western pop culture references constantly.
Yeah, that will date a script that otherwise wouldn't be dateable.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think is that it should be inarguable that it's bad. Like, even if you think that the stylistic choices are meaningful, the idea of adding things that will make a script dated by having pop culture references and political references in it, that should be inarguably a bad idea, because you are putting an expiry date on content that wouldn't have one. But yeah, so the interesting thing about this is, other than it being a great idea, is that the actual localization industry is absolutely blisteringly furious about it.
I love their reasoning, is because it makes it sound like that people don't trust the localizers. Oh, well, duh!
Yeah, the thing about that is,
you're all a bunch of Californians.
There's a funny reason we don't. It sounds like we don't trust the localizers because we don't.
Like if you could stick to just maybe messing with the grammar a little bit so that it sounds better but says exactly the same thing,
Yeah.
we'd be okay with it.
The
But
only
you don't do that. You never do that.
Yeah.
What you do is you get your butt in there and you go, this character needs to come out and talk about the patriarchy.
Yeah, like there's times where it makes sense to change things up a bit, particularly where wordplay comes into it.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, puns aren't going to carry.
puns
We
can't carry.
understand that. Although, as a personal preference, and I know that there are a lot of people who don't agree, as a personal preference, I always preferred when they used to add notes. Like, for instance, I have the old DVD version of Excel Saga, old anime. Excel Saga, the anime, was one of the most incomprehensible, inscrutable things ever made in the anime format because it was so deeply loaded down with Japanese pop culture references and wordplay that it was pretty much impossible for a Westerner without a Japanese background to comprehend most of the jokes. And so they added a separate subtitle track that could be switched on in conjunction with the main one on the DVDs that would cause pop-up notes to appear to explain each of the jokes, which I found very, very interesting. Maybe explaining the joke doesn't make it quite as laugh out loud funny, but I feel like I learned a lot.
Yeah, I'm getting the same thing going through Gintama because a lot of their stuff is either culturally or pop culture references in Japan. But like the characters are on screen, they're just having a stupid argument about Jackie Chan for some reason. That's nothing out of the ordinary for Gintama, by the way. Just pointless arguments, but they're making Japanese pop culture references. You're getting the notes across the top, so you're actually learning something at the same time.
When you mention these subtitle notes, I can only think of the meme "all according to Keikaku." Keikaku means plan.
Yeah, those ones are a bit dumb.
Well, that was just
That's people who wish that they were the localizers.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Fan translations are a different beast again.
Yeah, I think that honestly, I have seen that type of meme propagated more by the localization community than anyone else. Like, because that just doesn't happen very often. That one you see a lot, and there's another one from Familiar of Zero that gets circulated a lot as egregious examples of fan subbers dicking around with translations, just either outright failing to understand or not translating things and then putting the actual translation in as a note. But the thing is that those are memes because they're exceptional.
Yeah.
It's sort of like how people die when they are killed as a meme, but every other line that Shiro says isn't a meme because, oh, well, actually, it happened this one time, and that was funny.
It's just I always chalk that particular meme up to the translator was really tired.
Archer class is made up of archers.
Well, she does actually say that exactly.
She does actually say that.
Except, but that's got a sort of a oh crap! I accidentally started a clan battle by accident because I was hitting buttons at random. Okay.
Random buttons are bad.
Yeah, that line is actually sort of doubly funny because the archer class in FGO is clearly not made up of archers.
Only maybe 1 in 3 archers actually uses a ranged weapon.
There's a running
Let
joke.
alone a bow.
Let alone a bow.
There's a running joke early on in the Abridged series for Unlimited Blade Works where Rin goes, "You can't just throw your sword and call yourself an archer, stupid. You're definitely a saber."
No. Says what she knows.
You sure about that?
You got that
sure
wrong,
about
Rin.
that, Rin? Sure about that, Rin?
So yeah, you've got the localization as an option for people who just won't get the references or the syntax, I guess. You've got the literal option for people, and letting people just choose what they want is great.
Yeah, even more choice is always good. Even if one of them turns out to be a little memey, whatever. Players have choice.
Yeah.
Why is choice bad? Oh wait, it isn't.
It isn't. Although I wouldn't mind the third choice, which is the third type of translation I actually really enjoy, the riff track. We don't see many of those, but things like Ghost Story or Samurai Pizza Cats, where they just don't get the original script.
Well, yeah, there's no original track. There's only the riff track.
There is only the riff track. For both of those, there is an original, but it wasn't supplied to the translators. They just said, "Here, take this. Just do whatever. We don't care." both of them are just ridiculous funny, though Pizza Cats is admittedly rather dated. Considering they're making jokes about Clinton.
Yeah, but I think that they're funny because I grew up with Clinton being the president of the United States.
Yes, so we get the memes.
And Clinton is
Meme.
He is so dopey that him and W both are so dopey they're easy to make fun of.
Yeah. That. Anywho, so that's that. Just having more choices is always a good thing. Unless I guess you're a translator, in which case you take it personally.
Well, that means you can't insert your own creative twist or your own agenda into your product, and that's the whole reason you're stuck in a translator job to begin with, is because you're married to doing this.
Well, a lot of them are stuck in a translator job because they thought it was a great idea, and then they realized that it actually wasn't all that it was cracked up to be, and now they're just using it as an out for their political impulses.
And now they're stuck. Alright, what other little bits of news does we hears? Want to play some cross-tag battle?
So I've been meaning to talk about this for a few weeks, but haven't really found a good week to cram it in, or I keep forgetting about it because it'll go away and then come back and then go away and then come back. There is a push post-Koof in the fighting game community to implement a style of netcode that's been around for a while now, but hasn't been in popular use because it's relatively more complicated than the traditional netcode. And the normal netcode everybody is used to for most games is input delay. For 99% of the games you play, there's input delay netcode. And this means you push a button, you have to wait for your button's signal from your console to go through the internet to hit the server before your character does anything on screen. This can take, 0.3 milliseconds or something sometimes, if you're on a good connection.
Yes.
That's what most people are used to. The problem was, when Koof came around, all tournaments had to be held online. Locals were effectively dead. And unless it was a big sponsored tournament, people weren't showing up in person. So there was because everywhere was locked down, and the arcades probably went out of business. So you had this push for rollback netcode. Rollback netcode is different from input delay, and that what rollback netcode does is it simulates a environment where both players are playing locally by having the player's input, each player's input, immediately happen for their character, and send that to the server, and the server checks to be sure whatever you just did happens within its allowed predictions and shows that on the screen. And it looks fairly seamless most of the time, but this requires you to have some kind of predictive technology to figure out what the character is likely to do in the future to show that on the screen. And if it does not match up with what the other person put in, and their screen looks different, it will have to then calculate a correction. And this is not simple, easy stuff to just bolt on. You have to write the code for all of this. And it's especially hard when you have older games that already have input delay netcode, because you have to go back, rip that out, and put in this brand new netcode with the new predictive technology inside.
Yes.
It's very complicated. And if you're playing from a city, somewhere with a good connection, somewhere in thick suburbia, a metro area, that unless you live like on the edge of one like me, where internet is a bit spotty. Yeah, if you got a wired connection, rollback netcode's great. It's like playing locally with people. The game is able to keep pace and figure stuff out real good.
Yeah, especially if you're playing international.
That's the problem.
Yeah, we can't actually play most fighting games internationally, unless rollback netcode is on there.
Yeah, they had buffered input delay is what Arc System Works has used forever to get
Which-
around the international problem.
It kind of works, but
It 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 puts a big buffer at the start to optimize your connection as best as possible every single time the game boots a new match. And this makes the first few seconds of every match play like a slideshow, but that's usually during the character introductions, and you just wait for the lag to go away, and then you skip, and you're going, and it's playable.
yeah, not the greatest, but it's playable.
And it is they have far and away been the best for international play. They are now adopting rollback netcode due to basically pressure from the entire fighting game community, since they have to play online now. And this is now spreading across the entirety of the anime fighter scene, especially. And this presents an interesting conundrum that's hard to predict, because a lot of this is on the developer and how well they can write that predictive code to have the server guess what each player is going to be doing in the next few milliseconds and what their screen's going to look like. And some developers are really good at it. Arc System Works in the past has done pretty okay with it. Some developers are really not, like whenever Capcom tried to do it.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
So what happens if you're not very good at it and the code isn't perfect, or your connection gets spotty and it starts disagreeing with the server over and over again from what you see locally, is you will see the game abruptly switch to a different screen from what you have. You may see yourself whack the opponent with an ability, and then the screen will just suddenly on the next frame have you in the middle of a combo that the opponent's doing.
Yeah.
And this can happen rapidly in sequence and turn not a slideshow, but just a barrage of images that your client and the server disagree with. So if it's bad, it's really, really bad. And why I've always just lived with input delay netcode and haven't thought that rollback was necessary. But I can understand the argument that if this is the only way you can play now, you want the best thing possible. I can understand their argument for the situation they're in. But I think for most people, 99% of people that aren't, the FGC core main hardcore, input delay actually worked better. And what Arc System Works had with their buffer technology, where it would chug it first and then optimize the connection, was the best type of casual netcode there was. So we'll have to see it in practice. But that's effectively what all this, this so-and-so's getting rollback netcode is all about, that you're seeing all over the place, especially in fighting games.
Yeah, instantly. So the big thing that brought this on is they've stated that they're putting it into cross-tag battle, which I'm actually kind of amazed people are still playing.
And they're going to try to put it in the PC release of Persona 4 Ultimax.
Yeah, that one I can see definitely getting a lot more attention.
Yeah, because it got... Poor Persona 4 Arena base game got stuck as one of the 3 region lock games on the PS3, and its sequel, while really good, had that nasty taste with the localization stuff hanging over its mouth.
Yeah. So, like, cross-tag, there's plenty to like in cross-tag, because it's basically Persona 4 Arena just updated with a wider roster.
Well, it's a mishmash of all Team Blue's games, so P4A and Blaze Blue especially lean heavy into the influence for it.
And then Ruby.
With the cancerous edition of Ruby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about... Actually, that was a franchise that really fell off hard.
Well, Monty died.
Well, yeah, but after he died, they should have put it out to pasture at that point.
Yeah, right off a cliff.
Yeah. Like, the writing wasn't particularly
great. I've heard that
great.
as bad as it got when I kept up with it for the following season or two after Monty passed away, apparently even after I stopped bothering to keep tabs on it out of morbid curiosity, it got precipitously worse.
Yeah.
Like as bad as we saw it get, it got much, much worse.
Like
and much, much faster than its initial decline.
There were some really cool story beats in there, which were probably written out well in advance, but...
Once they ran out of Monty's notes, there's nothing
after
they
that,
got.
it's just dropped straight off the cliff. Once they had
nothing
else to work on.
Miles Luna has always been a horrible writer.
Yeah. I think you can
But,
you can see the point at which Monty passed away, and then after that you can see the point where they ran out of his notes.
Yeah, because at the point where he passed away, the choreography basically disappears, and it's
Yeah.
just arbitrary fights.
Everyone's kind of just
And-
slapping each other with sticks.
And then when when the story notes are gone, the story just sort of starts to flap free, and they just do sort of random but very stereotypical journey things.
Yeah, and stereotypical shonen things as well.
And
People
then
start
the
to
ice-
push powers
you
out
can
their
sort of-
ass.
You can also sort of tell a part of the story where clearly there were major plot beats were laid out in advance. Okay, so this major twist is going to happen. This major character is going to disappear. This, because you've got major points in story which, if seated in a good context, would be interesting. Except the framing is a total disaster. There's not any of the supporting events around them are very sort of slapdash and not very coherent.
Hmm.
yeah,
So clearly
and-
you can tell that they were notes. It wasn't a plot outline, it was notes.
yeah,
Let's
and
face
just
The 4 main characters are not all that interesting.
and then you had
They could have been, but obviously nobody remaining on the team knew what was in mind for them.
Yeah, like Yang, I think, was shaping up to be interesting before she fell off. Weiss, no. Ruby, no. Blair, Catgirl. That became her
Fun.
personality, is Catgirl.
she's fun in Cross Tag as a character to play.
Oh yeah, she's got some really cool mechanics there.
But the icing on the cake with Ruby is when they jumped on the Fire Vic train,
Mm,
Oh,
Just-
right, I remember that.
right.
just on that poop Sunday.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Ruby.
Vic actually
Ruby's
voiced one of the only really interesting characters.
or Vic.
Poor Vic. Whatever happened to his case anyway? It just kind of faded
Oof.
away.
Coof happened. The appeals got hung up because they're still going, but they're stuck in limbo land because the courts are still in Coof mode and not having nearly as many cases heard.
Which means there's probably a lawyer sitting there just soaking up retaining money.
Well, I don't think Ty's doing that to Vic, but
No.
I think that
I
Funny
don't
Jason
think
would.
it's waiting. I don't think it's waiting on lawyers. I think it's just waiting on judges to reactivate the case. There's no lawyers have to bill time. Not every lawyer is definitely going to be charging a retainer fee for time in which they are not doing anything, and such that they can be paid later to start doing something.
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah.
that sort of thing is not really done outside of when you're bidding on exclusivity. Like, you don't want this lawyer to work for your competition type of thing. That's where you get more of those
Yeah.
retainers.
At that point, you're more paying them not to work for someone else. So,
yeah. So
That
So,
whole
yeah.
case will probably just pop up again at some point, and with the result.
I assume Nick will start covering it again, and it'll be all over my YouTube news feed as soon as something happens and I can talk about it again.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the state of how do we get there from cross tag from
Cross-tag.
rollback netcode. So yeah, cross tag's getting it when it gets its Steam release, and Persona 4 Ultimax, they're working on it. I don't know if they've confirmed it yet or if it's still just a promise we're working on it, but we don't know yet.
Yeah. We'll have to give it a go, I think, when it launches.
Yeah, I'll scoop Ultimax again.
'Cause
I like
it's-
Ultimax a lot.
It's definitely worth playing through Ultimax just for the story. The story is pretty solid.
I like the gag reels, but I never really made it far through the story for the original P4A.
The gag reels are fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially with the
That's where-
expansion
that's where
content
they're-
where you find out, like, Yukari's whole thing, what she's up to.
I feel like that's where their true talent lies in comedy writing.
Yeah.
The valley or the sea. Pick one.
Sorry, Yosuke, you brought it on yourself by being Yosuke.
Oh.
And
All right.
Junpei.
I'm not sure if you're meant to feel sorry for him or not.
No.
Because
I don't think so.
He does. Yosuke does attract an awful lot of sort of extraordinarily poor fortune that really he didn't do anything to earn, but then he does earn so much of the rest of his poor fortune.
Yeah.
But most of what the poor fortune that he does earn is just, oh well, this is just him being a dumb kid.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything particularly evil, but he seems to become the universe's butt monkey constantly.
Well, he's introduced inside of a trash can after crashing into it, so.
Yeah, it's right there from the get-go. Junpei, I think they want us to actually like, but he's Junpei.
He was a attempt at a best bro type character, and I think he's the weakest member of Persona 3's cast.
Oh, easily.
Until his little arc with Medea, which gets wrapped up. Not Medea. Starts with a C. Medea's her persona. Chidori or something.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm brain farting.
And until that arc happens, and even then, it's only really good in the portable version, as many things are improved in the portable version.
Yeah.
So Junpei is just the obnoxious best bro character that's in every single game with a long running story set in a Japanese high school.
Yeah, we've seen his character before, and it's just way overdone.
Who uses a katana in the fashion of a baseball bat.
Whereas I just like Yukari, where her lifetime goal is to become a Super Sentai character.
Was that really her lifetime goal? I don't remember.
She
much
wanted to be
about
an
her.
actor, yeah. So she becomes a
Sentai actor
character.
is not really what you think of when you
Yeah,
hear the
Sentai
word
actor is kind of an oxymoron, isn't it?
Well,
Yes.
they certainly act much in the way that Jim Carrey acts.
Yeah,
Is that too harsh?
maybe a bit. Although let's face it, Jim Carrey's only at his funny, at his best when he's being ridiculous.
He's overacting to a ridiculous degree.
Oh, have you tried to watch any of his serious movies? They're awful.
He makes serious movies?
He shouldn't, but he has, and they're bad.
Smoking.
Mask was great.
Yeah, it was. That's probably my favorite. Most people in my generation felt that Ace Ventura was the best.
I liked Ace Ventura.
his-
The first one was
of his
great. The second
movies.
one, eh.
I liked The Mask better.
Yeah, I like the Mask better.
But there's something just ridiculous about that doing the Cuban Pete number just in the middle of a police standoff.
Yeah.
But only Jim Carrey could get away with something that's stupid.
Yeah. What else you got? The Grinch. He did an excellent Grinch. Mainly because he's the only person with such a rubbery face he could pull it off.
Yes, that's not CG, folks. That's his real
No,
face.
he can actually pull those expressions. And it's disturbing. Anyway, let us, I think, wrap up, because I don't think we've got any other notable bits of news.
I do want to point out they are fixing the train suplex in the remaster for Final Fantasy VI.
As in, yeah, oh, right, because they broke it. You could not suplex the train. You could use the ability, but it would not suplex the train.
Yeah, you could not see Saban suplex the train.
This
One
is
of the most
heresy.
iconic, one of the most iconic things about Final Fantasy as a franchise whole.
That was like literally the only thing you told me about it when you were rhapsodizing about how the second tier of Omega was based on FF6. You're like, oh, I need to tell you about this train being suplexed.
Yeah.
And you could not suplex the train in their little pixel update they're doing, and that is heresy. So they're fixing it.
I would absolutely love to see someone suplex a train in 14.
Yeah, unfortunately, you don't get to suplex the train in 14, which is missed opportunities. But what can you do?
Where's Godbert when you need him?
Missed opportunities to suplex the train, but for some reason they thought that Chattanooga needed to be included.
Needed to be really included.
You didn't even know who he was.
I totally forgot. Yeah, I had to think about it real hard. I remembered something in the mansion that looked like a painting, but I didn't remember who Chattanooga was. And I'm like, oh right, that's the demon in the painting. Because he's just a demon in a painting. So yeah, that's getting fixed, and I think that's about it for the meaty news.
Yeah, there's a couple of little other nuggets like saying that there's going to be even more No Man's Sky coming.
Yeah, they're really Murray seems really attached to that game now that he's pulled it out of the doghouse.
Good on him.
Well, if he can keep doing it and keep making it good, sure, go for it. I've kind of done my No Man's Sky thing at this point.
I might dust it off again, maybe in a few patches and see what they've done, but not in a huge rush for it.
Yeah.
Although there's people out there who are just absolutely bonkers for it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is that, and then there's the Sonic third movie and the live action series got announced. They're really milking that one.
They are. I think they're getting ahead of themselves a little bit there first.
Yeah. Not a whole lot to say on that one that we haven't said before.
Yeah. So, apparently there's more movies coming in down the work for video games. Apparently there's a Bioshock movie now being renegotiated again.
Yeah.
I don't think that Bioshock would honestly work as a movie. Because the
twist
thing
requires you to have been playing the game.
Yeah, you cannot do the would you kindly twist without it.
Furthermore, this falls squarely in the category of things that nobody asked for.
Yeah. The other option, I suppose, Bioshock is Sky Racists.
Yeah, let's not.
Goodness, that's the sort of movie that they totally would make these days.
Yeah, Infinite
Except
was
it would be subtly different and a lot more judgmental.
Yeah. Bioshock Infinite was an okay game, but that story just went stupid places.
I thought the game was quite bad, to be quite honest.
It was okay.
I was.
I think that
totally
the artistry was all right, like as far as a change in sort of art direction went. And it's like, oh well, this is interesting. This is a bit new. Yeah. But the actual gameplay was extremely weak. Like the gunplay was extremely flaccid, because we're using those sorts of words today.
Flaccid, yes. But yeah, my main problem with Infinite, the game gunplay was kind of meh, and they really kind of gutted the magical abilities. I forget what they're called.
Yeah, there was literally no reason to use their plasmid equivalent.
Yeah, absolutely no reason. And then the story kind of just went time travel, dimension hopping, multiverse bonkery all at the same time.
Yeah, too much to keep up with.
And it made some sort of sense to someone, I guess. But damned if I can figure it out.
But yeah, that's where we're at with the state of the nation on video games and stuff. I will come back next week and regale you with tales of Elden Ring, hopefully, and how wonderful I hope it is. But we'll have to see.
We shall see. Hopefully it'll be good. Please be good. All right, let's get out of here.
Yep. Closing comments, folks.
Can I not adult? I don't want to adult.
I don't either.
I logged into Lost Ark, and eventually I logged in, and I didn't really feel like doing anything once I had.
Yeah, it takes way too long. I'm going to try get into Elden Ring, if time allows. Got to figure out what my schedule looks like.
Yeah, it's a FromSoft game, so go into it knowing that.
Yeah, that's my biggest hesitation on it, honestly.
Yeah, you just gotta knuckle down and just do it. The get good is more than a meme.
Get good is also what you get yelled at during Hollow Knight.
Yeah, you are playing those games to fight get something good. that's going to take multiple attempts because you got to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's where we're at, folks. Honk honk. Even though the honks have been now forcibly removed, I will continue to honk in solidarity.
If it's not for one thing, then there's plenty of clowns around to be honking about.
This is the way Clown World ends. Not with a bang, but with a honk. All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.